Oh, I forgot. Crap. Forgot to charge my speaker. What's up? Let's go. Oh, actually, this guy said I should clip some of these debates. I was going to look into that. Progressive development of technological morality. Okay, when he's saying that, what then is man's current?
So,
I don't know if you guys saw, but I went on like Daniel's stream and I kind of. Oh, this is where I talked to Daniel. I kind of like went off on him. Cause like he's going around saying like, oh, Christians, they're not rational. They don't have evidence. Blah blah blah. The guy's so full of crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. How do I? Oh, I can clip this on YouTube. Talking crap about Christians. So I went up there and just told him, look, you're ignorant. You're ignorant as hell, son.
hi. So, I'm not religious, but I do live in a religious household. I actually believe in Mother Earth.
Are you an adult? I believe in Mother Earth. This should be good.
I've actually never been put on spot before. So, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me? Are you 18? Hello? No, I don't believe in evolution. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you an adult?
I'm 18.
Okay. You promise? You're not lying?
I swear, I'm 18. August 8th.
Okay, what would you like to say?
So I believe in Mother Earth, but I do have like Christian family members and like friends. And I don't know how to put this. I don't see anything wrong with having a different religion or perspective on things. I think it's actually really good, whatever you believe in.
No, it's not. What if you... Well, don't you think it's good to believe what's true? So, like, if you're believing something that's not true, wouldn't that be, like, bad?
I think maybe,
What if you believe, like, it's good to hurt other people or something? That's not a good belief.
I would still, believe on my own thing, and if somebody else...
Daily reminder that presupposition is for literal children who couldn't think their way out of a bag. If it's such a bad argument, I don't think it would upset you so much. Of course science is theistic. Who do you think first said that, when we figured out that God doesn't cause lightning? Who do you think first figured that out? It was the Christians. I'm just going to steal all the atheist dumb arguments and then flip them. Yeah, so people, I didn't mean to invite whoever I invited. That was an accident. So people used to think that God caused lightning, and but Christians, through preaching the revelation of Jesus, taught that God does not cause the lightning. So the reason we don't believe that God causes lightning to strike, or Zeus, is because of Christians. Of course there's no slavery in ancient Israel. If science was bunk, then you wouldn't be able to go live on your phone right now. Who said science was bunk? I just said it's a theistic concept. So science relies on metaphysical claims. It needs God's revelation to justify in order for science to be possible. Because science can only work in a certain sort of metaphysical reality. I don't understand why. Why would you think I'm a troll? You know what is a troll is these freaking atheists. Atheism is a troll because these guys never debate. They just sit in the chat and go, "Oh, I'm so rational and logical. I'm in the chat. I don't defend my atheism. I just sit in the chat and I type on my keyboard. And I say other people are doing rage bait. But actually, I'm the atheist keyboard warrior rage baiter in the chat." Christianity is objectively proven through the transcendental argument for God, which proves God as sort of like not a regular typical fact, but we prove God as the only coherent standard for truth. Like if you deny the Bible, you're denying a standard of truth. So then like what standard of truth would you replace the Bible with? There's tons of static noise.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I can't. There's too much background noise. I don't know if you can't fix that. I can't really hear you.
Oh, sorry. Let me fix that. Just fucking kick me.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awful. There is no standard of truth in the Bible. Well, sure there is. His name is Jesus Christ.
Believes it's wrong. That's their own thing, you know? It's just...
Why was scientists like Galilei, Copernicus, and other scientists persecuted by the church? I'm not sure about Copernicus, but I know that I think you mean Galileo. Galileo was persecuted not because of his science, but because Galileo in his book said that the Pope was a stupid, dumb moron. And so in those days, people were very religious, and when you insulted the Pope, that would get you in trouble. So he got in trouble for publicly insulting the Pope, not doing science. But they sort of like teach you that he got in trouble by religion for doing science because it's sort of a sneaky way to like, they're creating in your mind this like idea that religion is anti-science, and that science is like the new better religion that will give us the truth, that Jesus isn't the truth, that science man is the truth, right? Yeah, Kia Ross, you say it's rage bait, yet I don't understand. You guys are in the chat, and you guys are trying to like, it seems like you guys are trying to provoke me in the chat by saying that I'm doing rage bait. Yet, well, if it's rage bait, come debate me. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. What would you like to say?
So we already did this one, so I'm just gonna ask up front if you will kick me at the point where you are not willing to argue anymore.
Well, if I give an argument and all I hear is like, that's not an argument, I mean, you're not. Well, then you're not. You have a burden of proof. If I present an argument, now you have a burden of proof, and you have to give me a counter argument. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's why I kick people if they don't give me a counter argument.
Okay. So let's talk. So you're saying that like we need God as the truth, right?
that's a really simple way to put it. Yeah, like so Jesus is the truth. If you deny that, then it's like, what is the truth? Because like science can't tell us that.
Okay, so let's suppose that is true. Why Jesus in particular?
Well, because he revealed the perfect attributes that like he can explain. He can solve like the problem of induction, the problem of the one and the many. Uh, he can provide justification for like absolute moral claims. So
Okay, how did he prove that?
like the things he said about himself, he said like he revealed himself as the ultimate.
Okay, how did he reveal himself as the ultimate? Like, can you be specific, please?
It's just like God gives knowledge to humans, and the knowledge. So it's like you, you could, if let's say I was like a PhD scientist genius in like biology or something, you could probably tell that I was a PhD biologist by the content of what I'm saying, because I would speak in a way that you could tell like I had knowledge of the subject, especially if you also had knowledge of the subject. So, like God, the things he says about himself reveal that he is the ultimate because he reveals, like, I have this perfect attribute set that only God could have. So we know he's God.
Okay, that is interesting that you brought up if you had a PhD in biology, because like you said, like I would be able to assess that if I have some understanding of biology. If you told me that you have a PhD in biology, but I didn't know anything about biology, like then I would not be able to determine like if you have knowledge in biology or not, because I don't have it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone says that they are the son of God or they are God and they provide me a proof, I would need then to know like what is God to be able to assess if that proof is actually solid or not, right?
Right. So, like, the property, so, like, God says he's universal, he's omnipresent, he's unchanging, and he's immaterial. And so, what do we have? Logic. Logic is universal, unchanging, and immaterial. And so, like, unless you have in your model of reality something like God, who's universal, unchanging, and immaterial, you couldn't explain logic, right? And so, since God revealed these properties, right? Hey, I'm universal, I'm unchanging, I'm immaterial. That's like an evidence that he is who he says he is, because that's what the properties God would need to account for things like logic or mathematical objects.
Okay, okay. I think it would be interesting debate to debate that, but I am not well educated enough to have that debate. So I'll just give you that point that like you cannot have logic without God. Why Christian God in specific? Like how did Jesus prove that he is what you said that he is?
Because like one of the attributes is they have to be Trinity. They have to be always truth revealing. Like Allah isn't always truth revealing, but the Bible says God is always truth revealing. So that would be like an attribute. Like if your God lies, then you couldn't, that would destroy knowledge because your source of knowledge could lie to you. You see what I'm saying? If your source of
Okay,
knowledge,
so
yeah.
do I understand correctly that you're saying that like one of the proofs why Jesus was God is because he did not lie?
Well, yeah, it's his attribute. The entire all the attributes he revealed about himself. When we look at those attributes, we see that those are the
Okay,
necessary.
let's look at them.
Yeah, like he's always truth revealing. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's omnibenevolent. What else? He's
Okay,
these attributes, they're necessary.
okay, and Jesus did prove that about himself, that he is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient.
Yeah, because he did miracles.
Okay, how did he prove that?
Well, he resurrected from the dead, which shows he's omnipotent. He could read the minds of Pharisees, so he's omniscient.
Okay, why do you think that he did that?
Because it's in the Bible.
Like, okay, so you rely on the Bible on this one, correct?
I take the Bible as the authority in my system. And I say, like, if the Bible's not the authority in your system, then what would be the authority?
Okay, awesome. So basically you're saying that you are able to prove that Christianity is objectively proven and that Jesus is the Son of God as long as you do not argue with the Bible. Do I understand it correctly?
No. I'm saying you have a system and I have a system. And in my system, I accept the Bible as the authority. That's how my system works. So, like, in your system, what would be the authority if it's not the Bible?
Okay, I can answer that, but first I want to ask, like, if you have like any arguments outside of the
You realize
Bible.
that's a huge problem for your position, though. Do you understand that?
That what is a problem for my position?
That your system has no authority. So ultimately, when you say, like, I don't believe in the Bible, it's just based on your opinion because you have no authority to, like, appeal to say, like, the Bible's not true. So that's a big problem for you. But I don't have that problem because my authority is the Bible, the Word of God.
Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a problem. The fact that I don't have an authority to like appoint to, I would say that's quite liberating, and that is like the base of secular knowledge and of secular like approach to life.
How's ignorance liberating? I don't understand. I thought ignorance would like enslave you.
Why would? What do you mean ignorance? This is not ignorance. Relying on not relying on authority is not ignorance.
If you have no authority,
like
then what happens when you disagree with someone? There's no way to determine. There's no authority to say who's correct and who's wrong.
Exactly.
Well, then now you're in an imagination land where that's anarchy. Now anything goes, and that's slavery. Because someone more power than you can control you now. And you can't say all you can say is, well, in my opinion, you shouldn't oppress me. In my opinion, you're a bad person. That's a big problem.
Okay.
If you want rights and values, you're going to have to appeal to a higher power outside of humanity, or you become a slave of the mob.
Okay, we do live in a society, though, right? We have built laws of men that do not require God to reside over them.
Yeah, and if the mob goes against you, then you are utterly powerless to stop them. Well, I can appeal to a higher power, the power of God, and I can condemn them all to hell.
What will happen?
I have freedom from just having to serve a human. I serve God. I don't serve a human. You're a slave to a human. I'm a slave to God.
Okay, let's. Okay, I understand what you mean. Let's say I am not atheist. Let's say I do have a belief system. Let's say that I do believe some higher authority. How would you prove that mine is wrong and yours is correct?
Well, we'd have to get into a theistic debate then. So, like, I would probably appeal to God's revelation. And so, if you weren't a Christian, I'd be like, well, where's your revelation? And then if you're like a Muslim, revelation, but then we would like disagree over like I would show that there's a contradiction between God's revelation and the Quran, or that there's an internal contradiction within the Muslim worldview.
Okay, so you would say that there are no contradictions in the Bible?
No, but I would say that God's revelation is consistent, but the Bible doesn't use the Bible uses a type of reasoning that employs contradictions. So there would be intentional contradictions in the Bible. But that's not an issue because it's not the authors aren't using analytical logic. They're using continental logic or continental. So there's different types of reasoning. Analytic has to do with like a look at the tree instead of the forest approach, where continental philosophy has a forest. You look at the forest and not the tree reasoning. And so the authors of the Bible, they use this approach where they're looking at the forest, not the tree. So that they do intentionally.
Oh, okay.
They intentionally put contradictions in the Bible to it's a way to get a higher truth. Where am I have a book here that kind of explains it.
But why then you would be dismantling Quran by having like some discrepancies?
Because the discrepancies of the Quran are like at a foundational level, like
Are
the fact
are
that
on foundational level different, not on a foundational level wrong, right?
well,
Like you obviously think that they are wrong because you are a Christian, but like
but there's a difference between like
objectively they are just different.
there's a difference between like if I'm wrong about the shape of the Earth or something, that's a lot different than being wrong about logic. See? Like if we're wrong about logic, that collapses everything we know to be true. But if I'm wrong about like the shape of the Earth, that's just like one fact in a sea of facts, right? So Islam, it contradicts itself like foundationally, like it makes logic impossible, where Christianity doesn't. So it's like a meta level or like a foundational contradiction that like fundamentally destroys truth. It's like it's much more serious than like the Bible having a contradiction about like the number of years or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you are right about that. Let's say that like you can dismantle Quran or like the Muslim faith. Like, why would that mean that you are able to dismantle every faith? Like, if you are saying that Christianity is objectively proven and it's the one and true faith, then regardless of what faith I believe in and like how that faith works, like without reading a single thing about it, you would know that that faith is wrong and you would be able to prove it, right?
Sure, because Christianity uniquely has a Trinitarian God. You know, there's no other faith with a Trinitarian God, and then we can show that the Trinitarian God is necessary, like air is necessary for us to continue living or speaking.
How exactly?
It's really philosophical. I don't think you'd really understand it, but like, okay, the way I could put it simply, maybe think of like a jigsaw puzzle. So there's individual like pieces of the jigsaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the universe is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, you have the individual pieces. Those are called like the many, and then you have like when they all fit together, they form one big picture, and you can think of that as like unity or one. So there's the many, the pieces, and then there's like the one, the big picture. So if all you have is the big picture, then you wouldn't be able to see the pieces. Like if they're all glued together, then there's no pieces. They just have the one picture. And if you have the pieces like scattered all over the place, you can't see the big picture. If the jigsaw is not put together, you can't see the big picture. So to make sense of the puzzle, we need to be able to see the individual pieces, and we also have to see the big picture. So this is how the universe works, that our universe has individual puzzle pieces like stars, people, laws of physics, but then it also has like these big picture things like math, the way math works everywhere, the way gravity applies to all objects. But here's the problem: science can't explain why this combo exists. Science just assumes this is true. And atheism, materialism can't explain it either. If everything is just random particles, why is there like connections among the why is there like this big why do we see this big picture along with the individual pieces? Like how do we make sense of this? So um it's like if you found a puzzle somewhere, it's like there's this puzzle in the universe and we assume someone designed the puzzle. So when the way the universe has distinctions and connections, it sort of like forms a puzzle. And so this indicates like a designer. And the designer who made the puzzle has to have the properties of one and many. Just like the puzzle has individual pieces, but also the big picture. And God has this. God has the Trinitarian God has three distinct persons connected in one Godhead. So you have the big picture, the Godhead, and then you have the pieces, the persons of the Trinity. And unless God has those, like the big picture and the pieces, the God would not be able to make sense of how we in our everyday experience we see the pieces and the big picture together. So, like in Hinduism, for example, they say everything is Brahman. Everything ultimately is one thing. So in Hinduism, they can tell you about the big picture, but the individual pieces aren't real. They say those are fake. Or atheist materialism will say that, well, the big picture isn't real, but although the pieces are real. But these don't work because unless the big picture and the pieces are both real, we can't like have knowledge or make sense of the universe. And so since only Christians can do this, then Christianity is true.
That is really fascinating. Like, why would you think that only Christianity is able to do this? Like, there are thousands and thousands of religions around the world. Like, you say that Hinduism doesn't do this, but it obviously does. Like, it does talk both about the pieces and about the unity.
No, it doesn't. In Hinduism, it says ultimately everything is Brahman, so there's no distinction in Hinduism. Like,
yeah, it says that because we as people are very clearly able to see the particles, the pieces. So Hinduism like teaches us to see the connection, the whole tapestry. It doesn't teach us to see the pieces because it knows that we do see the pieces.
No,
like it doesn't say that the pieces do not exist.
No, you're wrong. Hinduism claims that the pieces are not real. And if you claim the pieces aren't real, you destroy knowledge and truth. So that doesn't work. That's why you need a Trinitarian God. None of the other systems work.
Okay, how just out of curiosity, how much time have you spent on studying Hinduism?
Not very much.
So how do you know that I am wrong, not you?
Because I read it.
Well, you don't know how much I read, right? I could be ex-Hindu.
Well, you could have more knowledge of Hinduism than me and still be wrong about this particular matter. So I know that I'm correct on this particular matter because I looked into it.
You know that you are correct about Hinduism, even though I might have more knowledge about Hinduism?
Correct. Just because you have more knowledge about Hinduism doesn't mean you're right on every single issue concerning Hinduism. Someone with less knowledge on Hinduism than you could be correct on a particular instance that you would be wrong about.
Where did you read about Hinduism? Was it in Hinduist books?
I got an AI from a Chinese AI supercomputer that told me Hinduism says that distinctions are an illusion, or that differences are an illusion, and that everything is one.
Okay, that is your source for understanding Hinduism.
Yep.
Do you understand how that is a very, very bad source?
Oh, why? Because it's Chinese?
No, because it's AI. It doesn't matter that it's Chinese. And honestly, it doesn't even...
No, there's no racism here. Sorry. Welcome.
Yo.
Yo.
So, you say that I'm lying, but you're not backing up your claims. You say that I'm lying, but your religion literally promotes pedophilia, gender inequality, and stuff like that.
Don't say that word. And no, it doesn't. The whole idea of all humans are universally like equal comes from Christianity.
Okay. But why does your Bible then say that the woman is a property of the man?
It doesn't say that.
Well, it literally does.
It literally does not say that.
It says something along the lines of that.
It doesn't.
Okay, what does it say then? Can you tell? Do you know what teaching I'm referring to?
Do you know that Rebecca was a judge in ancient Israel?
Rebecca was also 3 years old.
They had women with... Oh my God.
Bro.
Grow up, dude. Maybe I should have done therapy time, actually, with him. I should have done therapy time. Oh, that guy was trying to come back.
Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, are you a Christian, Marty, right?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
Okay.
I just wanted to. It was not Rebecca, it was Deborah, right?
Okay, yeah, I always get that wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Deborah that was the judge.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you spoke to this, I believe he was German or something, right? He had a strong accent. Not the guy, the last guy, but the previous guy. You were talking about the higher, about the authority that the Christians can basically, reference to an authority that is outside of them,
Yeah.
which is higher, right? Higher than us.
Yes.
Which is the Christian God, and it kind of reminded me of the. I don't know if that was actually spoken during those trials. Remember the Nuremberg trials?
I've never studied them. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but they had those trials and regarding those German soldiers who were responsible for all those atrocities that were, part of the World War II.
Right.
And I heard, I'm not sure if that's actually true, but I've heard that during the trials there were basically in their defense, they were saying like, well, we were just following orders from our higher superiors, right?
Right.
And what I've heard, I repeat it again. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but the judges would say that even though you had those orders, there is like a higher moral law or higher authority that you should have listened to, like your conscience or your
right,
something that is outside of you, that even your leaders, your rulers should have told you about, or you know about. It's basically they refer to the authority of God, right? And
I've heard this argument before.
Yeah, but that's a good argument, actually. Whether it happened or not, it's actually a good argument, because if you're in an army or
they're natural law and universal principles of justice. So they're not really appealing to like a god or anything, though.
I know, but based on that, I think there is a good foundation for the Christians to say, we can't follow your order because my God doesn't approve of it. So I won't follow it. And if you need to put me in a prison or even unalive me, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good argument. Because
no. What I'm saying is, you always say like, I have my 10 commandments and they are higher than the law of the country, or the law of the authority in the country, right?
But Nuremberg didn't involve God. I'm involving God, so that's a huge difference. So I won't even bring up the Nuremberg.
That's why I said I'm not sure if that was actually said about God. Maybe there was some kind of natural law or whatever
They're just
but if it
appealing to like natural law or something, or universal principles of justice that aren't real. They're appealing
yeah,
to
but then those defendants, those soldiers, high-ranking soldiers could say, that's just your opinion. Who created those natural laws? Humans did, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because if I'm in a position of power and I can enact force on you, it doesn't matter what you argue. So
Yeah. What I'm saying is just the response of a Christian should be like, I don't follow the authority of a man.
yeah, but we're not. Oh my gosh. Okay, you're. This is like a bad. You're like associating us with Yahtzees. This is not.
Yeah, I know, but
I hate this argument. I hate this argument. Well, I gotta move. I gotta move on to someone else.
All right.
Yeah,
Take care, buddy.
Thanks.
Bye.
This guy was waiting for a while. I was trying to get to him.
All right. Moses parting the Red Sea. Impossible. Right. Jesus walking on water. Impossible.
Right. But what would dictate what's possible and impossible if it's not God?
It can't be done.
Okay, but that's not. In my model of reality, God determines what's possible. So in your model of reality, how do you know what's possible or impossible? What determines that?
Because I have eyes and I have feet, and if I put those feet on water, then I fall through the water, and now I have to swim now.
Okay, but you're not really answering my question. So.
What's your question?
God determines, like, the reason why you can't walk on water is because God made the world in that way. So, like, what would have designed the world, or like, how do you explain that things are possible and impossible? Like, there's no way, right?
I guess you're right. But what about the world being only 2,025 years old when we know it's been around longer?
Well, again, science says that, but science's knowledge is limited. Science has been wildly inaccurate in the past, so there's no reason to think that what they claim today is like we should trust it, I guess.
So everything is just God. You just say God after everything.
Well, ultimately, everything goes to God. Yeah, ultimately, but like I would still I could still do science, or I could still do philosophy, because I live in the world. I can use my human reason, and I can use my senses because they're designed by God. But if you take away the designer, then nothing makes sense and everything falls apart. Christians are scary. Yeah. What is this list? There are slaves in the Bible. No, there's just voluntary workers in the Bible. There's no one's forced to do anything against their will. Yeah, dude. He keeps. I don't know where you're going. He's probably at work or something. Oh man, people in the chat are not very mature. We have record of civilizations far older. What? Yeah, I typically like to do one-on-ones, so it doesn't get like a lot of crosstalk. This is easier to moderate. Yeah. So, anyways, what would you like to say? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
What about how there's other religions on Earth?
Well, sure.
So their gods fake?
Yeah.
Their gods are fake, and ours is just luckily we got the lucky religion.
Well, I wouldn't say we're lucky. I would say it's objectively proven. I guess if you want to think that it's lucky, I guess.
What about no slavery in ancient Israel?
Right. Yeah, there's no slavery in ancient Israel. Like the whole idea that slavery is wrong comes from like uh Judeo-Christian values. So like for example, here's a book by a historian named Jacques Ellul, who's a professor at a college in France, Bordeaux. And he says here, he's a historian, mind you. There was, in fact, greater technical progress in civilization where slavery was prevalent, for example, Egypt, than in others where the institution was practically unknown, for example, Israel. So the institution of slavery was practically unknown in Israel because the Israel people were oppressed and persecuted and treated poorly in Egypt, and God was sympathetic to the way that they were being treated and oppressed. So they never oppressed other people or treated other people
But
bad.
isn't there slavery in Leviticus?
No, Leviticus is talking about the institution of servanthood, which would be a socioeconomic institution in the ancient Near East. I think it's more comparable to like a welfare system or like a bank loan or a prison system. So they didn't have prisons. You couldn't get a bank loan. You couldn't get food stamps. And so the institution of servanthood was like a necessary socioeconomic institution in the ancient Near East. And there's nothing really like nefarious or evil about it. It was actually done out of empathy and compassion for the poor and destitute. Also, compassion for people who were wronged in criminal activities.
What about Exodus?
In Exodus, God frees the slaves.
He permits beating slaves.
Yes, if you have a servant, well, I think the word is servant because these people weren't forced against their will. So, yeah, if you have a worker that does something wrong, you were allowed to punish them through corporal punishment. So,
Yeah, but isn't that like evil and not nice?
well, police officers, if you break crimes, you'll get beat up by a cop. It's a necessary evil. Sometimes you have to engage in physical discipline with your worker. Like imagine if you walk in on your servant and they're graping your child. You're going to beat the crap out of them, but you would be justified in beating the crap out of them because of the crimes they committed. So it's not as if you'd be allowed to just like at your pleasure and personal whim just beat up on your slave. That's ridiculous. This is atheism. I don't know. He keeps like,
In second grade, they take you to the library and they're like, here's nonfiction books and here's fiction books. You know the difference between the two, right?
a nonfiction book is the true.
Yes, it's truth, facts, science, real things. Fiction is fantasy, dragons, splitting the water, walking on water, burning bushes, talking donkeys and shit.
Yeah.
The Bible.
Yeah. Well, no, the Bible's not.
Harry Potter, fiction book. Bible, fiction book.
Okay. So is that all you got?
That's all I need.
Okay. Well, how do you demarcate between fiction and reality without God to as like a standard?
What do you mean? Reframe your question again.
Exactly. I don't know.
Exactly
Like,
what?
how do you tell the difference between fantasy and reality if you're not a Christian? Like, what's the standard?
Common sense, basic fundamental common sense. Are dragons real? No.
Wrong answer. You lost a life. Life lost. Game over. Insert another quarter and try again. Dude, why do you have to use Darth's first name just to like try to intimidate him? It's so pathetic. Or I mean, first name. Did I say last name? Oh, welcome I.
Hi, hello. I'm for Greece. Thank you for the window. So yeah, I wanted to say in the former guy, yeah, that he said that the Christ can't walk in water. The only thing we can say into that is that when you are the maker of the law of physics, you can do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, how would he even know it's impossible to walk on water? Like, what would make it impossible? It's going to be God, right?
Yeah.
He has,
So
yeah.
another. I'm sorry for interrupting
Go
you.
ahead.
Another thing about the contradictions that the Bible has, or that's what they say. When you read the Bible as a solo book, yeah, as the only book, yeah, you maybe find some contradictions. An example, when the Christ, yeah, was on the cross and said, my God, my God, my God, my God, why have you forsaken me?" If you took, and the contradiction is that why God is calling up to himself. The problem with that is that Christ didn't call for help, didn't cry. He was reciting a prayer from Psalms 22, right? So there is no contradiction.
Right, I would agree. Yeah. Plus, he's a distinct person from the Father, so he could talk to the Father.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. It's the Father and the Son. Yeah, that's correct. By the way, I believe in God, in something higher than us. I believe in Christ. Yeah, I'm not in the church ways. Okay, to be. So I want to clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe in the church teachings because what the people made is to take the words of Christ, yeah, and God, and make too many atrocities. That's a historical fact. But that's not fault from the religion. It's a fault from the people that hijacked the religion.
Yeah, well, I
Okay.
don't. I mean, well, it's just the fact that everyone's still a sinner. Just because you become a Christian doesn't mean you're like perfect. But
Yeah, I don't disagree in that.
the atrocities of like people who aren't Christian are way worse. Like, I think
What? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
Well, I think Christianity has prevented a lot of atrocities because in Christianity, even though we don't always we're hypocrites, we still believe like humans have value and they're made in the image of God. Whereas if you're not a Christian, like in some Asian countries, they've unalived a lot of people, and I think it's part of this is because like they don't value people because they don't have that Christian um, framework. I guess.
Yeah, that's not the same for all religions. Like Buddhism, yeah, it gives respect to life overall. But what I'm saying is that what you say is correct in the sense that that was the teachings of Christ and God that we must have respect. Yeah. Uh,
But
then the people came and hijacked that, and they make like the Middle Ages. Have you read about the Middle Ages?
sure, but what in the more recently, Buddhism didn't prevent like Mao Zedong from unaliving an unimaginable amount of people. Buddhism didn't stop it, so it's at fault. Whereas Christianity, I think, would have prevented something like that.
Yeah, if we read and understand the teachings, yeah, Christianity, or the teachings of Christ, yeah, because when we say Christianity, we are talking about a religion, and Jesus Christ didn't teach a religion. He taught us how to believe in God and into Him.
Well, it's sort of
that's my opinion.
Well, it's sort of an anti-religion because we don't need a priest. We can have a direct relationship with God, and we don't have like a list of commands that we are obligated to follow. We're free. We're saved by the grace of God, not by our works. So, in that sense, it's sort of an anti-religion because typically religions involve like you have to do these works and you have to listen to whatever the priest says. Like in science, you have to listen to the whatever the guy in the science with the white lab coat says. You have to listen to him, and then they give you a bunch of like works like climate change, right? So you have to change. You have to limit your carbon footprint, and that's like your works that will save you from the climate change boogeyman. See what I'm saying?
Okay, so what happened in the Middle Ages was correct.
What's that?
So I'm going with your analogy, yeah? So what happened in the Middle Ages? Burning the books, women, men, children, because the men or the people in the hierarchy of church were told, or they said that it's so, and we cannot find that anywhere in the Bible. They did those atrocities. So, according to your analogy, because the priest said so, it's correct.
Okay, I don't know. I think we're having a language barrier issue because that's not what I said. I was making a criticism of how science, how religion is not like that, and science is. Welcome, Ball.
Yeah, what's up? In your previous background picture, you said Christianity is proven. What do you mean by that statement?
That there's an objective proof that Christianity is true.
True about what? Christianity exists quite alright, that's what you're saying. But are you trying to say like Jesus is the Son of God and God exists and stuff?
Yeah, everything in the Bible is true, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So what's your proof now that Jesus is God? You believe that Jesus is God, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what's your proof that Jesus is God?
So the proof, it's a little bit different than how we prove a normal fact, like how we prove the shape of the earth, because Jesus is the truth. So Jesus is a standard for truth. And so I would say something like, well, as a Christian, I have a standard for truth in Jesus. And as a non Christian, you wouldn't even know what the truth is. And since you don't know what the truth is, it's a contradiction. You have to accept Christianity, whether you admit it or not.
Okay, so this is your proof that Jesus is God, what you just said now?
Yes.
Basically, you claimed that you have monopoly over the truth, and that means the truth is not objective anymore. But you started by saying that the truth is objective. So you're contradicting yourself. How can you hold the truth and then saying that other people cannot decipher the truth except
because
you tell them? That means it's not a subject. It's not objective. It's subjective.
No, because I can walk you through it, right? Like, so scientists can't tell us. There's no experiment that tells us what the truth is. See what I'm saying?
Okay, but the thing is, you could not prove that Jesus is God. You just made more claims. You claim that Jesus is God, quite all right. I said, prove it. Then you made more claims that you hold the truth.
I'm trying to walk you through the proof. So Jesus said, I am the truth. So Jesus isn't just a normal fact. Jesus is the truth. Now, can science tell us what the truth is? No, right? Science just tells us data points. It doesn't tell us what the truth is. Can a jerk philosopher tell us what the truth is? No. Philosophers just make shit up, and they never prove anything like science does. So how do we know what the truth is, since our best philosophers don't know it and our best scientists don't know what the truth is? Well, the only way to know the truth is if the truth is a personal creator God who takes the initiative to reveal himself in creation and human history in Abraham, Moses, and finally Jesus.
Okay, so I told you to prove that Jesus is God, and then you made like 6 or 7 claims. Science don't know the truth. Claim number 1. 2.
Yeah.
Philosophers don't know the truth. Claim number 2.
Yep.
Claim number 3. Jesus came, and therefore Jesus claimed that he's truth. Where is your proof? You're just making more claims, bro. Don't you understand the meaning of proof? Justify.
Yeah, but
Proof. Show all working. Show how you arrived to the conclusion that Jesus not make more. Anybody can make claims. I can make claims now. I can say I'm God.
Yeah, but we
It
have to
doesn't mean
have
I'm God, yeah?
to say something's true. You need a standard by which to judge something as true. And I'm saying Jesus is that standard. And if you deny Jesus is that standard, you're not going to have a standard, are you? Because can you tell me what the standard of truth is? You can't. You don't
Yeah,
even know.
reality. Have you
What?
checked the definition of truth? Words have meaning. Have you checked the meaning of the word truth?
Yeah, but a definition, you can't define truth into existence.
So what do you understand by the word
Well,
truth? Let's just
can we just define things to be true? Because then I'll just define Jesus is true and I win the debate.
Yeah, so truth, according to the Oxford Dictionary, says
Okay.
the quality or state of being true, that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. So now, can you prove for a fact that Jesus is God? Your proof so far is that Jesus claimed that he is God.
Yeah.
Now, Jesus was unalived. God cannot be unalived, right? Jesus was flogged. Jesus was arrested, treated like he was a criminal, actually. So he was arrested, judged. Can humans judge God?
No.
So that's on unequivocal. That's a true. That's is a true fact now that Jesus is not God.
Well, according to Britannica.com, Jesus is the man who Christians believe is the Son of God and whose life and death and resurrection are reported in the New Testament of the Bible as the basis of the Christian religion. So it's true.
So your belief is what you're taking for a fact. Is that not being misled?
Well, because
Don't take your belief as fact.
it says in the Britannica Encyclopedia entry that Jesus is the Son of God. So
It starts with Jesus is the man that Christians believe to be the Son of God. Now, let me ask you a question, my brother. If Jesus is the Son of God, who are you? Who then are you?
I'm a child of God.
But you are male, right? I assume. You are
What?
male. Are you male or female?
I'm a male.
Okay, that means you are the Son of God, right?
I'm not the Son of God. I would be like a Son of God.
That means Jesus is also a Son of God. I believe that you're a native English speaker, right?
Huh? Well, Jesus is different.
How?
He is God. He's not.
We have already proven that he's not God. Humans flogged him. Why do you think humans flogged him? They wanted to verify his divinity, so they flogged the hell out of him, just to be sure that he's not God. Right? If
What?
he's God, think about it. What's your name? Press of Mars, right?
Yeah.
If Jesus is God and God that created the whole universe truly came to earth at some point, he would have solved some key problems for humanity. For instance, transportation. Transportation is such a big problem that we're almost destroying the planet to create fuel for transportation, right? Now, another one is communication. Jesus did nothing for communication. We had to invent phones and the TikTok I'm using to talk with you now. He didn't solve that. What of health? We've been battling injections, vaccines, and a whole lot of things to solve infant mortality, maternal mortality, and so on. Jesus did not, none of that. He just managed to make a crippled man walk to show off, which doctors do every day. So you can't tell me convincingly that God himself came to earth and solved zero problems. Zero. It does not make sense, right?
Well, you're looking at it all wrong, right? So like, God could snap his fingers and solve all your problems, right? He has that power. And that might seem helpful but it wouldn't be like respecting you as a thinking, free person who can make choices. And so, um, God gives you sort of like God doesn't want you to be a slave. He wants to work these like through this adversity and come to have like a relationship with him because he wants us to be like free thinking people.
Are you sure? Can I ask you a question? I believe you've read the Bible. Who do you think in the Bible asked Jesus to come and die for humanity? Who?
God.
No, nobody. Nobody
Oh,
asked Jesus to come.
the Father.
Jesus is God, right? So Jesus himself told himself that he's going to come and die. We did not ask for that. We did not need that, right? So he put himself through all that and unalived himself. That's suicide.
No,
And we
it's
don't,
no, it's
I don't know
deicide.
any, we don't agree with that, right?
It's
And
deicide.
now yeah, deicide, okay? Doesn't make sense, right? At the end of the day, he's doing it to bring you to himself to have a relationship. Can you imagine that? What you're saying, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, because if Jesus's work bypassed humans, it would make faith, love, and commitment meaningless. So
And let me ask you,
God
if
doesn't
you,
just God doesn't just change you without your involvement. He invites you to have a relationship with him and asks for your cooperation.
so why didn't God invite humans to heaven? Why did he come to unalive himself?
That's the
To
whole
trick humans. God tricked humans into unaliving him, right?
dude. What are you talking about? He didn't trick. Oh my.
Jesus came and made the Romans to take his life. He provoked the Jews at the time until they started a protest and took him to Pilate. He provoked them, right? They were running their religion perfectly fine. It was okay the way it was. They believed Moses was fine. And Jesus came and provoked them to the point that they had to take him for unaliving. So Jesus tricked them into unaliving him
Do you
in
have
the
a
guise of relationship. What kind of relationship is that?
Do you have a good relationship with your father?
Yeah.
Really? There's no animosity. Like maybe he worked a lot when you were growing up and you needed attention from him. He didn't.
No. My father was the perfect gentleman. He was always around.
Oh, I thought maybe you were like saying crazy things on the internet because like you seek attention because like your father didn't give you attention growing up. That's not.
Okay. I get what you're saying now. So you're losing the argument. Now you want to make it a personal thing, right? Bro,
You're just being
bro.
ignorant.
You need the Holy Spirit right now.
Oh my goodness.
If you believe you're going to heaven, then you're going to heaven. Further down the road, if I want to become religious or anything, I do believe like that maybe God would like, you know, what I've learned about religion or like Christianity is it's really accepting. And I do have a pastor, and he told me that if you just repent or like, you know, accept, what is the word?
How am I losing the argument? That guy was babbling.
Forgiveness or tolerance or community. Well, in Christianity, I mean, it's supposed to be about acceptance and love, forgiveness, humility. But like, I don't believe we're supposed to like persecute other people personally, but unfortunately, some Christians persecute others. Like, I feel like if you're not a Christian, then we shouldn't hold you to like Christian standards, right? If you're not a Christian,
Yeah.
you can do whatever.
And I
you
think
want.
that's where a lot of Christians get it wrong, you know? Because the thing is, if you try to shove religion into somebody's face, right? And if you try to like push it onto someone, they're only going to push away, you know? You can't force somebody into something that they don't want, you know?
I think laws to force people to be religious are stupid. That doesn't make sense.
You can't say someone is like a sinner or put this terrible title, be like, oh, you're going to hell, right? Because no one wants that. You know, no one wants the worst. And the thing is, you gotta tell them, like, hey, like, you gotta tell them the truth things, you know. Because what I learned.
You don't get people to be Christians by making a law that forces them to be Christians. You get them to be Christians by telling them they're going to hell if they don't repent.
And God is this equal person, or like this equal being, not person. Like the whole biblical verse and him washing the person's feet with his robe, you know, he saw himself as an equal.
Well, you know, that's actually, there's a meaning to that. So, like, and the idea in Christianity is that, like, power corrupts. So this is why you have, like, I think a lot of people don't like Christianity. It's because it can kind of go to people's heads, and, like, power corrupts.
For sure.
And people it's easy for us.
Oh no, therapy was over. I forgot to change the background. I was doing therapy because when you debate with atheists, it ends up turning into a therapy session because they got like daddy issues, like 9 out of 10 times.
To abuse our power as humans because we're like in a fallen state kind of as a result of Adam and Eve. So the idea in Christianity is like Jesus is the master. He's the one with the power, and he uses his power to serve others. And this is sort of how we solve these problems. There's always like problems of social injustice and inequality in the world that's like always existed.
Mm-hmm.
But Christianity offers a solution to that problem, where the idea is that if you're aware that power corrupts you, and what you do is, like, Jesus used his power to serve others. He did by washing their feet. So if you're a Christian and you find yourself in a position of power, the idea is you're supposed to, like Jesus.
Yeah, well, people can come up. I'm accepting people. I'm here live, but if no one's, I can't debate if no one's here to debate me. I was going through this someone told me that I should clip this conversation, so I was looking at these old. I never go through these old combos, but this guy said they were good combos, so I just.
He used his power to help and serve others. He didn't use it in like a selfish way.
Mm-hmm.
So those with power, if they're Christian, they should use that power to serve others. And I think that's a really like.
Yep, our God Jesus is the servant. He's not a tyrant.
Good solutions to some of the problems we still have.
How is number one correct? The transcendental argument for God. I can even put the argument on screen. The real simple version of it. We can flesh the argument out more, and I can explain why it's true. But a real simple, it's like, if knowledge, then God. Knowledge exists, God exists. I can show that God's necessary. Any fact that God's necessary for that fact. So, you can't have facts without God. Man, see, man, see, man. Man.
Mm-hmm. I just don't. I don't think heathens have a power in general. I think we're all here equally.
Hey, what's up? I'm live on TikTok. Nothing. Did you want to stop by later? I'm live on TikTok right now. Maybe later if you want to text me. Okay. All right. See ya.
Experience.
Hi, I'm Precept Mars from TikTok.
Life as it is.
Stupidest shit I ever heard. It's so stupid. That is the keyboardiest, warriorist I've ever heard. Or something like that. Do I have any opinions on Darth Dawkins' host? Yeah, I think Darth is funny and informative, and I like the way he's no nonsense. Sometimes I wish he would let his guests maybe speak a little bit more, but not that much more. I like how he does conversations. And his argument is supreme. He's the GOAT debater when it comes to theism versus atheism. If by that ideology I acknowledge SpongeBob, does that mean it's real? I don't know what you think your mental states are real? I don't know what you're saying. That sounds crazy. Yeah, mental states aren't real. Real is like things that are true apart from mental states. Like the grass and the tree and the dog, the tangible things. Not necessarily tangible though, because God. Well, would God be tangible? I don't know, like specifically what tangible would mean, right? I think God would not be tangible, but he would be concrete, which is kind of weird. I don't know. That doesn't make much sense.
And like, we're all gonna go through
Oh, that's true. He was tangible. That's true.
struggles, and like we're all gonna have like a better life. There's people with better lives than others, and religion kind of just helps you be like, okay, this is my morals. I think religion and like beliefs are just morals, because like, how do I explain this?
Does Darth scare me? I'd be scared to debate him because he's so good at debate. Yeah, there was slavery in Jesus' time. That's true. Well, there was always slavery, but in ancient Israel, the institution of slavery was unheard of, or practically unknown.
God set out like morals that people follow, and
Oh, am I afraid of death? No.
I'm so sorry if I'm not even making any sense.
It's okay.
I've never actually like talked about my beliefs, but I solely believe
I never thought about these things till I started talking, or I never talked about these things. I
that
think
people are
about.
here just to experience life. No one's higher than others. If you think about it, we're all gonna.
She's saying the point Diogenes made to Alexander when he said that we're all going to end up bones.
Well, I don't know. In different beliefs, I guess we're all gonna go in the same place. Either it's hell or heaven. Either it's back to the earth, like I believe. The thing is,
No slavery in ancient Israel. No slavery in ancient Israel.
we're all just here to experience life, and why would you put somebody down based on their belief?
Because, like, what if they had a bad belief?
Well, I mean, what if they had a really horrible belief, though?
Right?
Oh, I didn't think about that one, honestly. Like, obviously, there's an extent. Like, if you
Like P. Diddy, right? Like, I would like to put P. Diddy down based on, I don't agree with his beliefs, and his beliefs are horrible, right? So screw P. Diddy, right?
I actually have no idea about the P. Diddy thing.
You're lucky. Don't even look at it. It's too bad. Awful.
Like, I think, because I believe in Mother Earth, I wake up, because I lived in a native house.
How is atheism irrational? It's irrational because there's no evidence for it.
Cold. You wake up for your son, you catch your blessings, you thank the Mother Earth for what she's giving you, all that good stuff.
Epstein was worse? I don't even think so. I think P. Diddy was way worse than Epstein. Dude, P. Diddy's got like 20,000 accusers. Like 20, like legit, like 20,000 people he raped. I mean, what is the number? There's no way Epstein did that many people. There was like an insane number of like, accusations against Diddy. It was like literally tens of thousands. Crap. I can't find an article about it because there's so many articles. So these are from October. I Can't really find a good answer to this. Dang it. Can AI help? How many people have accused P. Diddy? If AI can't know, then I don't know. I swear I saw a lawyer. He said he had like literally like 10,000 people or even more. It was like insane. Oops. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. They're both awful. They're both awful. Like, I don't know. I can't find it easily. There's too many articles about it. Where were we? Oh. The P. Diddy thing, they were worshiping, they had satanic, well, this is what I've seen people. Christianity is objectively proven with the transcendental argument for God. I go into like detail about that. I didn't save that part though, did I? DeepSeek is down. So I could say like atheism fails to provide the preconditions necessary for rationality, science, knowledge, and morality. It is a worldview that cannot be lived out consistently as it borrows from the Christian framework while it's denying its truth. The atheist is thus left in a position of intellectual and moral bankruptcy, unable to justify the very things he takes for granted. Only the Christian worldview, with its foundation in the self revealing God of Scripture, can make sense of the world we live in. As much, atheism is not merely false, it is impossible to live consistently within its own presuppositions. No, there's no, the word that they use in the King James version was servant, so slave is a bad choice. Should be servant. A rejection of a belief can't be irrational. Of course it can. Is flat earth irrational? If I say I reject that the earth is a sphere, that I'm open-minded about the shape of the earth, is that rational? No, they don't make a claim. They say we're not saying it's flat, we're just saying I'm not convinced it's a sphere. That's what they say. They literally argue exactly like an atheist argues. No, they identify as flat earthers, and then they say, "Well, I'm not claiming it's flat. I'm just convinced. I'm not convinced."
Hello.
Hello, are you an adult?
Let's go, man.
Let's go. Reporting. I guess I don't know if it's true, but someone was saying that they had satanic altars, and they were doing like hedonistic naked parties around the satanic altars, and he was like SAing people and graping people, like he would put things in their drinks so they would be unconscious, and then you know what I'm saying, like that's, I think we can say that those are. You don't think it's irrational to question whether the earth is a sphere? Are you kidding me? You're lying. His like religious beliefs, I have a problem with that. So,
Okay. You got me there, honestly. Yeah, I do have a problem with that too. Like, obviously this is there's a fine line between like having a healthy religion or belief and having a non-healthy. Honestly,
Exactly.
like,
But I mean, yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is like God is love, or like his children. Because like you think about love, right? Like a man and a woman love each other, and they want to share that love, and so they create a child. And that's how I think of like God. God is love. He's three persons in one. He expresses love in himself. He wants to share his love, and so he starts creation, and we're made in his image. We're God's children. He wants a loving relationship with us, and we sort of like any typical child, right? We're in a rebellious phase. We're like in the teenage phase of humanity. We have teenage angst, and we want to rebel against God, like teenagers rebel against their parents. And so now, as a result, we're undergoing some sort of like discipline, and God is allowing us to experience unpleasant things. So we learn not to love the world, repent, and turn towards God, so we can have a loving relationship with him for eternity. And like the whole point of our experience in our life here is to spread love, to love God and to love.
God isn't real. What? Well, then what would actualize the realness of anything if it's not God actualizing the realness of the thing?
Others. So that's what
I think I'm honestly on the same page. I think God is the ultimate like judgment. You know, I don't think we're here to judge anyone. I know people. I'm pretty sure it's like part of the Bible too. Like you're not supposed to judge it. You just
well, I would say we're not supposed to condemn people. I would say because judge has different meanings. Like obviously we're supposed to have like make opinions and judgments about things, but
I think some people can go a little far with it though. You know, like
we're not to condemn people, because you remember when they wanted to stone the woman, the adulterous woman, and Jesus said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." And everyone realized that they were sinners, so they went home and they left. And Jesus walked up to the woman. He didn't have sin, but he said, "You know, I do not condemn you. Go and sin no more." So, revenge or like justice is for God. And if someone's like committing sins, like that's between them and God. It's not like our job as Christians, unless obviously they're like a violent criminal or something. Then
that is different. You know, like if somebody decides to sell their body, I feel like that's personally on them. You know, and
yeah, as long as people aren't being harmful to others, it's like it's between them and God. Like I wouldn't like condemn someone or put them in jail because they're like breaking the law of Moses or something.
So, yeah. Okay, so I don't know if I even got anywhere on this. Yeah, but.
Well, you learned that your beliefs were, you were contradicting yourself, or your beliefs were you weren't thinking very clearly. Remember?
Yeah, but yeah, my religion is my belief. I mean, is not religious or anything, but I do.
So
I just think these things, and I have no basis for it, and they're not well thought out, and I made myself God.
Not sure how they think. So you could probably.
The agnosticism would be like the idea that you're neutral.
Excuse me. Thank you. It was because of Christian influence that slavery still exists.
We have no idea what you're talking about. No, freedom is a Christian value. It's completely opposite.
That's untrue. There's acceptable slavery in the Bible.
Do you think you can rationally deny God? No. Because if we lived in the random world, right, you could.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like
acting with people.
But
I asked one question. God made us, so made God simple. Yeah, why don't you Catholic my balls? Thousands of religions. How do you know yours is true? Oh, thousands of scientific hypotheses. How do you know yours is true? Great logic. Is it possible for atheists to believe in free will? They could believe in it, but could their worldview make sense of it? I don't think so. The problem of evil. The problem of evil is a problem for atheists. How is evil real if you're an atheist? How do you say Ted Bundy is really evil or Mustache Man is really evil? You'd have to say they're fantasy evil. But that doesn't feel right, does it? Like, I think they're really evil people. To say it's all a fantasy and that nothing's really evil seems a bit odd. Doesn't it seem odd? Answer my question without a question. What's your question? I'm splurging. What about the problem of evil? So how is evil inconsistent with God's plan? I don't see how that's a problem. You're making the claim that evil is inconsistent with God's plan, but where does it say that in the Bible? How would you know that? If your God created everything, that would include all your oppositions in every religion, right? Yeah. Yeah, it would. Which is why it's funny when people try to oppose their creator. Because it reduces them to absurdity. You're opposing the thing that made you. That's goofy, isn't it? Isn't it? Why are my arguments invalid? First of all, you're going to want to say they're unsound because they're definitely valid. Oh my god. Yahtzee alert. Why would an all-loving God cause evil? Well, he tells Job that Job asks God that question, and God says Job wouldn't understand. So I can't answer every question. I can only answer like the biggest question of all. Bible is not proof. Well, if the Bible is not the authority in your system of truth, then what would be the authority? What authority would you appeal to say the Bible's not the authority? When you say the Bible is not true, is that just like your opinion, man? Because the way I see it, if God isn't the ultimate standard for what's true or what's good, then you have no standards. And if you have no standards, why are you telling me that my standards are wrong? Based on what? You guys want to say like, "Oh, your standard of truth is incorrect." Okay, well what standard of truth? What standard of truth is the correct standard of truth? And they go, that's a dumb argument. You're being circular. Well, what's no? If you're saying God's not the correct standard for truth, then what's the correct standard? Enlighten me. You're shifting the burden. Well, I'm not trying to shift the burden, but you're telling me my standard's false. So what's the correct standard if how do we know things are true? You're the one making a claim. It's like what are you, a toddler? Like what? Reality. Reality is reality. How do you have access to reality? You don't have access to reality. You don't Science doesn't make claims about reality. Do you know that? Oh, autism or Autumn is going around telling people that I'm a creep, so I'm gonna leak our DMs. All right, there you go. Look how creepy I am in the DMs. How do you like that, Autumn? I leaked our DMs. How does that make you feel? That's how you made me feel when you told everyone I was creepy. How am I creepy if I don't even DM you? Yeah, and when you made your claims, you don't tell them that I'm saying these things to you in public. They assume, because you don't provide the context, they assume that I'm DMing you. How is not DMing her is creepy too? Anything I do is creepy. Yeah, not DMing her is creepy, right? Well, your DMs are leaked, Autumn, and this is your fault. You do not provide context. You frame everything to fit your false narrative. This is what they do. They do this with when they read the Bible, they frame it in a way to make God look dumb and evil. Like anyone can do this. I could say playing violin is rubbing cat intestines on horsehairs. That is true, but it's framing the truth in the worst way possible. And that's exactly what these people who hate Jesus, they always frame everything in like total evil. Well, I know things are true because like God makes them true. And I'm just I don't understand, like if God doesn't make something true, then how would you know it's true? It's really like fucked up what you did, Autumn. You need to get someone. Apparently, no one's ever checked you in life that you can't treat. It's not right to treat people like that. You know, Autumn. Women, when they accuse a man of rape, no one believes them because of people like you, Autumn, who go around. When you make false accusations, you discredit women who make accusations against men like that. It's really bad. No, she's gonna come up here. She is an unrepentant heart. She's like Pharaoh. She's stubborn. Most young people are stubborn though because they haven't faced the harsh realities of life. But when you get an existential crisis at like 45 years old, that'll change your tune. Christianity can prove that Jesus was alive, but God is definitely unknown. Well, God would be unknown unless we accept his revelation. We couldn't know anything about reality unless we would accept God's revelation, because humans don't really have access to reality. We just have access to like phenomena and perceptions, which it's just going to follow logically and necessarily that to deny God is to deny reality. Now you're in the matrix. There's a lot of people in the chat, dude. I'm not trying to skip you. My book has fallacies. But like, you have to have a system, but if you're going to do an external critique, you need to have like a system of logic. But like the book is necessary for the system of logic. So that's the issue. So before you point out the fallacies and contradictions in the Bible, you have to account for like, how are you using logic? What is logic? Is logic real? You have to explain that, and then we can talk about the contradictions in the Bible. They just want us to grant them logic as if, oh yeah, you can just use logic. No God needed. Let's see here. So philosophy has a problem that all systems begin with axioms. Like logic is valid, truth exists, and these axioms can't be proven without circularity. As Aristotle noted, it's impossible to prove everything, for then there would be an infinite regress. Even skepticism, which says we can't know anything, self-destructs as it claims knowledge about the impossibility of knowledge. So any position that's not Christian is going to be parasitic on the Christian worldview, since you're going to be using logic, whether you admit it or not, and you won't be able to account for and ground logic in your godless model of reality. So since neither science or philosophy can ground metaphysical claims, how do we know ultimate truths? So divine revelation is necessary. Only Christian theism provides it because of the specific claims of Jesus that the other God claims lack these attributes, right? So we know specifically it's Christianity. So there's limitations to science. Science operates within methodological naturalism, studying the physical world through observation and experimentation. It answers how questions, for example, how do stars form? But science cannot address why questions about ultimate reality. For example, why is there something rather than nothing? Science presupposes the uniformity of nature, that laws are consistent over time and space. They presuppose the reliability of our human reason and senses. And they presuppose causality, that effects have causes. But science cannot justify these presuppositions. For example, why does nature obey laws? Science assumes uniformity, but cannot explain it. Why trust our minds? Evolutionary accounts reduce cognition to survival utility, but survival utility isn't truth. So this would undermine truth claims. What caused the universe? Science describes the Big Bang, but cannot explain its origin without appealing to metaphysics. So science is a tool for studying the physical world, but it depends on metaphysical assumptions that it cannot ever prove. People don't understand these scientific limits because of all the scientific miracles and the scientific successes. Well, we put a man on the moon, therefore science true. Well, logically, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You want me to talk about Timothy 2:12? I'll look it up. I'm not a Bible scholar though, so I do debates. I don't do Bible studies. Is it First Timothy? You didn't even clarify whether it's First or Second Timothy. Oh, I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. Yeah, do you want to put that in context? I have a theology book that can help us with that. Whoa. So the passage, let's see here. What is this? It's the moralizing. Excuse me. I can't. There's a part in I have a book that talks about so. Basically, what's going on is in pagan cults, women led the masses with speaking in tongues and being crazy, and doing orgies and stuff. Oh, here we go. No, I should. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, here we go. I shouldn't mark this. This is actually pretty interesting. People don't know about this stuff. Okay, so there's been a lot of misrepresentation about Christian attitude toward women. All right, so I'm going to read you guys from my book. You guys probably don't believe I have a book. You're probably skeptical I have a book. Okay, so how do I do this? What? How do I turn off the camera? So there. See. Okay, it talks about that passage the guy was asking about in here. Well, it talks about the whole ball of wax. We can get into this about how the attitude of Christianity towards women. First, it is true that there have been periods when patriarchal form of society has been dominant. For example, in Judaism in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC, and in Rome in the same period. But it is absurd to describe all traditional societies as patriarchal. As always, there have been variations,
it can be shown that Roman society in the 1st century AD was no longer patriarchal in the strict sense. Women had equal rights with men except for voting in elections. They were not kept at home to raise children. Similarly, in the Seleucid Empire, the 1st century BC and later, women were fully free. It has been shown by Voltaire that they were at work in all the higher professions, women. Women were bankers, ship owners, business people, and entrepreneurs of all descriptions, and that they freely handled large sums of money. In the Germanic tribes that invaded Europe, women again had a fairly privileged status. They even took part in battles, tactius, and had equal rights with men. Did you guys know this?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, I wanted to. You say abortion is child sacrifice. Now, I suppose what you mean by that is abortion is immoral.
Well, no, I mean it's literally a child sacrifice. Like you are sacrificing the life of an unborn child for like convenience or like bodily autonomy or something. Typically, it's bodily autonomy. Like, so a god doesn't have to be like a supernatural being. If you value bodily autonomy above another person's life, that's example of like a false idol or like a false god. And so when you say, well, my bodily autonomy is more important than, an unborn child's life, yeah, that's a sacrifice to the god of bodily autonomy.
Okay. So, the thing is, when you say like child sacrifice, right? When we think about sacrifice, we think about something that we used to do to the gods of our world, right? That used to be Greek gods, Roman gods, whatever, and we would sacrifice people to feed these spirits, and it just sounds very, very twisted when you say it's child sacrifice.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Just because we put a scientific framework over like what we're doing doesn't mean it's not like a child sacrifice. It's the fact of the matter that in the past, societies engaged in child sacrifice, and our society is no different just because we want to put a modern and scientific spin on child sacrifice.
Sure, the people who used to praise the Bible also used to do child sacrifice.
No, they were.
Yeah, it literally happened in the Western world in the 1500s.
What?
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about when the Catholic Church approved of child sacrifice?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because the Catholic Church is of the devil.
The Catholic churches are the devil?
Yeah, the Vatican is demonic.
Okay. So you don't agree with Catholics? You're like a Lutheran or something?
Something like that.
Okay. You know what? If this is purely going to be a religious discussion of like God of the Gap, I don't think I'm going to engage. But thank you.
All right, I wish you well. At least she was polite and mature. Yeah, she was smart. You can tell that she has a good relationship with her father by how she acts. I can't say the same for most of my guests. So, anyways, we were reading about how the false idea that all older societies are patriarchies. It's true that with the collapse of the empire, the status of women suffered a sudden decline. Probably the very dangerous nature of the age and the constant military threat gave men absolute permanence and favored a return to patriarchal organization. From the 12th century, there were new movements toward legal and economic equality between men and women. Naturally, I cannot go into detail here. Until the 18th century, society is not patriarchal, but the situation varies according to time and place. One cannot generalize. The later 18th and 19th centuries see astonishing regression in the status of women in every field. The common mistake of non historians is to think that because this was the position of the 19th century, it must have been worse in the 16th and worse again in the 13th century, etc. They have a naive belief of constant progress. In general, however, the thesis of a patriarchal society is not a valid one. The problem still remains and is as follows. The biblical texts themselves are very favorable to women, or at least neutral, according to local circumstances. Nevertheless, in later Judaism, in certain strands of Christianity, and in some orientations that the church has given to a society, these texts have been taken in such a way as to become completely hostile to women. This poses a serious difficulty. In any event, we must not generalize and say that this is the orientation of true Christianity. On the contrary, it is a deviation from it. In the Hebrew Bible, women occupy an important place as witness the political role of Esther, Judith, and Rahab, the prophetic role of many prophetesses, the role of Rebecca, and the role of the female judges in Israel. Such basic texts say the Song of Songs in Proverbs 31 may also be cited as displaying the very essence of feminine symbolism. More theologically, if we return to the Genesis text, we are astonished at the usual misunderstandings. Eve is inferior, it is said, because she is created after Adam. This superb logic makes Adam inferior to the great saurians after which he was created. Creation is in fact an ascending act, and Eve, who is created last, comes at the climax as its crown and completion. Again, it is said that Eve is inferior because she is not made out of primal clay, but out of part of Adam. This is equally absurd reasoning, for Adam, who carries the name Earth, is made out of inanimate matter, but Eve, who carries the name Life, is made out of animate and hence superior matter. There remains, of course, an argument that is repeated again and again in later Judaism and some branches of Christianity. Eve, it is said, was the first to sin. She gave sin an entry into the world. She is thus guilty and must subject to her husband. Again, this is absurd reasoning, for it is hard to see how Adam can have any claim to superiority when, in this test, he shows himself unable to rule his wife, fall into the simplest of traps, and is in no way worthy to be the head. But was not the woman tempted first? Indeed she was. And this leads to the invoking of absurd arguments according to which she is less intelligent, easier to seduce, and weaker. Yeah, what about the fact that Adam followed her lead? There is, in fact, a better theological reason for her being tempted first. If she is the supreme achievement and perfection of creation, it is through her that the serpent must attack the rest. Oh, that's a good point. She does not resist, but neither does the man. We may simply recall the famous Chinese proverb that it is by the head that the fish decays. We should consider this to get the point of the story. But she was not also a temptress. Indeed she was. But to understand and evaluate what this means, we ought refer to two other elements. In the first creation story, there is no distinction or hierarchy between the two who are the 2 and 1, or 1 and 2. We do not have on the one side the female temptress who is the source of evil, etc. No, we have only one being,
And if evil is done, it is done by this one being, no matter by which aspect it commences. The woman is not without the man, nor the man without the woman, as Paul reminds us. The second basic truth is that the woman, as the same Paul also reminds us, is the glory of the man in 1 Corinthians 11:7. This passage has often been misconstrued as teaching a hierarchy from God to man and woman and man to woman. But this is not the point or purpose. The question is that of the relation between powers and of mediation. The text I want to focus on here is the one about glory. Following Barth and others, I have often recalled that glory is revelation. God glorifies himself when he reveals himself as he is. Jesus Christ glorifies God when he reveals himself, when he reveals him to us as the God of love, who is also the Father. We ourselves are called upon to be the glory of God as we are in his image, as we show by what we are, who is the God to whom we bear witness. In this passage, Paul then adds that the woman is the glory of the man. She reveals him. She shows what a human being truly is. If we relate to this temptation, we learn that by what she says, the woman brings to light the fundamental reality of Adam. She shows him to be weak, undiscerning, fluctuating, ambitious, desirous of equality with God. She simply reveals this. Both are equally at fault, and the condemnation, as commentators and theologians should remember, is more severe for the man, since he is given no hope, whereas the woman has a double promise and carries a double hope, namely, that she will transmit life and that her posterity will crush the serpent. It may be noted, too, that although the status of women is generally positive in the Old Testament, a few texts, on which we need not dwell, do arouse suspicion, such as those that relate to impurities. Yet we should not forget the many passages that also deal with male impurities. Insistence has been often placed on the positive attitude of Jesus toward women. Jesus receives both men and women on equal footing. He cures sick women as well as men, and does not repel the adulterous woman or Mary Magdalene. Naturally, it has been noted that he chooses only men as his disciples, but to this one may make the radical reply that he first reveals his resurrection to women, both in the Synoptics and in John. Women are the first to receive this supreme revelation. Women become the evangelists of this resurrection by carrying the news of it to the disciples. Women receive the first witness to eternal life. This is theologically consistent, for it is a fulfillment of the name Eve and of the promise about the serpent. Compared to this, all else is secondary. It is important that Jesus affirmed monogamic marriage and its indissolubility. But this pales in comparison with his complete reversal of the judgment of his age concerning the transmission of truth by women. This is why I do not agree with Albert when he asks why Jesus did not go further in solving the problem of women, when he argues that Jesus did not reverse the social situation, and when he advances socio-political reasons and explanations. This is all inadequate when we think of the revelation and of the resurrection. And the author is mistaken when he writes that the gospel carries only the germ. No, the gospel has in fact said and done everything. In this regard, we should not forget the decisive role of women in the primitive church. Women are its founders and pillars. They act as missionaries, as Paul often shows, and they bear responsibility for churches. Romans 16, Colossians 4, Philippians 4. Externally, we have curious testimony in the famous letter of Pliny to Trajan, in which he writes about female ministers. We should also remember that women have spiritual gifts such as uh, diaconate, prophecy, and speaking in tongues. Acts 2:12 and 21. One may thus say that there is a clear-cut ascension to utterance and to equality with men. Paul, too, recognizes that women have the gift of prophecy, the gift of public prayer and prophecy in 1 Corinthians 11:5. Finally, he affirms total equality when he says that in Christ there's neither Greek nor Jew, male nor female, slave nor free. This opinion soon arose, however, that Paul is a frightful misogynist, and that we should focus only on those other texts in which he speaks about the obedience of women to their husbands, their inferiority, and the need for reservations about them in certain church affairs. We shall return to this, but I first want to make a remark that will, I am sure, shock modern readers. Namely, that for people of that era, the social problem, the place one occupied in society, was not as essential or dramatic as it is today. Once again, we must not project our own ideas and images and problems upon the past. Today, an inferior situation is intolerable. Today, an inferior situation is intolerable. Social inequality is scandalous. It seems to us that Paul is saying things that are unjust and unacceptable when he does not radically condemn slavery as a global social scandal, or when he admits the superiority of men in marriage and does not address it as a social issue. These things are unjust only according to our view of justice and unacceptable only to our mind. In those days, they were not important questions, not merely for the dominant class, but for everyone. Hierarchy and inequality were normal. We have also to consider that our ideas about equality and the absence of a hierarchy are not entirely true and right and good, quite the contrary. How could I condense this into an easy way to explain it to people? I might have to put this into Chat GPT. And then... What Paul does in complete agreement with the teaching of Jesus is to bring back the question to its spiritual root. The mistake is and has been to make moral laws out of the passages in which, for example, Paul speaks about the subordination of the wife to her husband, to transform them from what they are, an affirmation of real life, into the formulation of a norm or duty. Cutting one's hair is a sign of a word I can't say that women do historically, a historical job women are famous for. And so Paul tells Christian women not to do it, since they are not the historical job women are famous for. But we must not make of this an imperative. The matter of subordination is more important. When Paul speaks about hierarchy, it is in the context of what Jesus himself said and showed, namely, that the greater must be the servant of the lesser, that the hierarchical superior must serve the hierarchical inferior, that the stronger must not exercise power and authority, but put the self at the disposition of the weaker. So this is the solution to the social justice issues is that in a situation where we have a power dynamic, we simply if the one with power uses the power to serve the one who's weaker, then there's no issues. But that's not what we have. What we have is corruption and oppression. So what we need is a Christian attitude to solve social injustice. But the social justice warriors think that Christianity is the problem, although it is a part of the problem because Christians try to like moralize other people. That becomes a problem. Only a Christian wouldn't know what objectivity means. Yeah, bad brains. What does objectivity mean? You don't think I know? You know what I think you are? You are an atheist keyboard warrior. Huh. Nobody wants. Oh, we got someone. We got. The rage bait worked.
Hello. How's it going?
Going well.
So, you've got a whole bunch. So these are 5 claims. Are you making all 5 of these claims, or are these just things you want to debate?
Yeah, I would defend these with arguments. Yeah.
You would defend these with arguments. Okay. So, I mean, I guess let's start with number 1. Christianity is objectively proven. Proven how so? Proven to exist. Proven to be completely true. What's the argument there?
Well, I'd use a transcendental argument for God, where I'm going to say that like God's not a normal fact because God is the thing that makes facts true. So we would like argue for God as like a standard of truth or like a system of truth. And we'd say that like if you don't have the Christian God in your system of truth, then you don't have a system of truth. Basically, like the only coherent system of truth is the Christian system. So that would so denying the Christian worldview would be like denying truth, essentially.
So, and you're saying objectively true, correct?
Yeah.
And you would get to that objectiveness through reason and logic?
Well, no, we would say like God's revelation is necessary to have objective truth. And if you deny that revelation, there is no objective truth because all truth will just ultimately be what a human mind decides is true.
But how do you get to the point where you can presuppose God there as necessary? Because I see that I'm assuming precept Mars. I'm assuming you're a precept guy, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so where do you get to the point where you can precept God? Because I'm not saying that me as an atheist, I'm an atheist. I'm not saying I don't have presuppositions, but what I would say is you and I share a lot of the same presuppositions, I would assume, when it comes to wanting to make a logical argument, that our argument should be based in logic and reasons and sound and valid, correct? That true things would be logical, they would be reasonable, they would have sound and valid arguments for them.
Well, yeah, but like I can explain like what logic is and how we can use it. So the atheist model can't explain like what logic is and how humans have access to it.
But it is just a tool. That's all it is.
It's more than a tool because we use it like there's these
It's
The-
not more than a tool, though, because
is.
reason and logic aren't the truth themselves. They're a way that we establish a truth. They're a way that we process things and process information to find out if our arguments are actually sound and reasonable.
Right. So you have like mental categories, and then you have like physical categories. Like we have sense data, and then we have our logic, and they're connected. Like the mental categories, when we take in sense data, that sense data fits into a mental category, and the mental category represents the physical category. So how would you explain? You have to explain how that is possible. Like, how is it that our minds and our senses can connect? Like an architect can design a bridge, and that's a concept, but then that concept has application in a real world.
We have biochemical processes in our brain that process that information for us.
It doesn't explain like how our concepts connect to the physical external world. And only God can explain
that. That's not even something special to us.
Well, who cares? Dude, I don't know what that has to do with anything. The fact of the matter is that our concepts, mental categories, align with physical categories. And to explain that, we need like a unifying principle like God. And if there's no God, then we can't. You just have to assume these things on blind faith.
I mean, you don't though, because you have all right. So you have crows that have the ability to use reason, to use tools to solve complex problems. Are they using God to understand that and to figure that out?
No, I don't think crows can use logic and reason.
They have an ability to use some amount of reason on with a consistent pattern. There's tons of studies out there. You can go on TikTok and find videos of crows using tools.
Yeah.
At a very reliable rate and solving problems. That's essentially what we're doing when we're using our logic and reason. We have a problem, we're trying to solve it through these arguments.
A calculator can solve problems, but a calculator doesn't understand what any of those things mean.
But it has a programmed reason. Right. It has a programmed logic into it.
Yeah, but it doesn't understand semantics. So, like, the crow can solve problems, but it doesn't understand semantics because it's not made in God's image. It doesn't have logic and reason.
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
The crow has an input-output like a calculator, but it doesn't understand the meaning of anything, just like the calculator. The calculator doesn't know what like 1 means, or like 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't get the meaning of it. It's just an input-output. It's not thinking about things.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that they have the same level of logic and reason as humans. What I'm saying is
they don't have logic and reason. They don't have logic.
They have a level of it, dude.
No.
That's
wrong.
It's not wrong. It's a biochemical process that takes place in our brain, and we can see how it's evolved through time, through animals that's eventually gotten to us.
Prove it.
Dude, go on and look up.
Science experiment proves that. You're full of shit. You're full of shit, dude. This is why I get pissed off at people, is they come up here and they preach. He's preaching his blind faith garbage religion. He doesn't have any fucking evidence for it.
What religion? I guess that's your other one.
Science. You're like
science atheistic.
You're turning science into a religion because you're saying, oh, science shows us that crows have reason and logic. Science doesn't fucking do that. That's nuts. I mean, you can laugh, but you're a fucking joke, dude. You got a religious attitude.
How do you get to science as a theistic concept?
You're treating it like what?
How?
Because you're acting like you can make claims like a crow has fucking logic and reason. Science can't claim that shit.
Science can claim through watching and observing crows use a level of reason to solve problems. That's literally what science does. You can do it.
Who observed a law of logic?
You can observe it.
Who observed logic? Where do you observe that logic? Is it under a rock?
I have corrected myself on saying logic multiple times, and
Did you observe reason?
and
Where's
repeatedly
reason?
said, "Watch them."
Can I
Reason
put
is
reason in a
problems.
cup?
You can reason with something, and
Can I put reason in a cup?
no, it's a
Yeah, because you can't. It's not a fucking science thing. That you're turning science into a religion, dude. You're making claims your scientific experiments can't fucking cash.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
You just need to read more. Welcome.
What have I just heard?
What do you mean? This guy, you mean the guy who's like, oh, crows have logic. You mean that? That was nuts, right? I'm gonna use my crow logic to prove atheism. Okay. Premise 1, crow logic with reason. Premise 2, crow logic that atheism true. Conclusion, atheism true. Do you like my crow argument? I got it from a famous crow philosopher.
Einstein and Stephen Hawking were smart people.
Yeah.
That's you observing logic.
Where's the science experiment that the crows do to get it?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
What?
Do you not understand how you can observe logic? What are you talking about? Have you gone insane or something?
How can you observe logic?
Do you think Albert Einstein was smart?
No, he married his first cousin.
Do you think Stephen Hawking was smart?
No, he's in a wheelchair.
That's just ableist. You're just a horrible person. How can you be a Christian and a horrible person willingly?
I figured if he was smart, he could figure out how to like walk around.
You're just stupid. That's just not a thing, though, is it?
I'm not smart, but I can walk around.
So if I say Stephen Hawking is smart, yeah, that's me observing logic, isn't it? You retard.
Okay. Well, now who's the ableist? You like that joke? I thought that was a good joke. I'll probably get banned for it, though. Welcome.
Yeah, you're a bit of a cunt, mate, for saying that Stephen Hawking wasn't clever because he was in a wheelchair. He had MS.
Yeah, but he couldn't even speak. For all we know,
he had MS, you fuckwit.
Yeah, and he couldn't talk. So for all we know, the government was using him.
He talked before, you fucking... He wasn't born with it, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, but he talked through a computer. So for all we know, the CIA...
He had to use a computer, you fucking idiot.
Right, and for all we know, the CIA could be using that controller to say... that speaker to say whatever to brainwash us. Because we all... They convince us that this guy is smart and he speaks through a computer. And then they compromise the computer, and then now this
you
fake
don't actually know Stephen Hawking was, do you?
Not really.
Yeah, I can tell. So I tell you what, instead of saying, oh yeah, he was dumb, actually look into his achievements. The fact that he had MS, which is a debilitating disease, and he was still, still doing scientific, he was writing books, and he was still, the fact you don't know that just goes to show you're a fucking idiot.
I know that people with MS typically don't live as long as Stephen Hawking did. So what I suspect is that he got...
how old... What's the average... What's the average then, life expectancy of an MS patient?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but
so once again...
My hypothesis is that he succumbed to MS in his youth, and then they propped up this actor in a wheelchair and gave him like a computer voice and told everyone he's a genius and to listen to the computer voice. And really, we was just listening to a CIA operation to control us.
So you know he was British, and so it wasn't CIA, you fucking idiot.
Well, all the intelligence agencies are connected, like MI6.
Oh yeah, no, we're not. The CIA is probably keeps itself to itself.
No. All the intelligence agencies work together to undermine Jesus.
And why is that? Sorry, why is the CIA against Jesus?
Because the people in power are in league with demons, and they do like
God, demons. Oh yeah. Oh
they're
God,
trying
mate.
to believe lies.
Mate, honestly, you just keep talking. Fucking make yourself look stupider than ever.
Okay. Well, what about Aleister Crowley? I mean,
what about him?
Like a lot of rich, famous, powerful people are into that stuff.
Yeah, but no, he was a moron.
Okay.
A cultist. And why are you bringing him up on your live?
Because it's the evidence that Satan is in control and that the leaders are in league with the devil.
Oh, you're embarrassing yourself on your own live. This is insane to watch.
Okay, well, isn't that like every live?
What do you mean? What? You're embarrassing yourself on every live?
Well, that, and also like anyone who goes on these TikTok lives is embarrassing themselves. So I mean, that's just trivially true.
What? Because people come in there to tell you you're stupid and you can't take it.
What do you mean I can't take it? Why didn't you call me stupid?
Because you're an idiot. Have you made any rational point in the past 15 minutes?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know about the last I think so. Yeah.
Well, let's go through some of the list. You said Albert Einstein was stupid, one of the greatest minds in history. You said Stephen Hawking was stupid because he had a disability. Yeah. You said all the secret agencies are connected. What is wrong with you? What is wrong? What is genuinely wrong with you?
Well, I just think they prop up these so-called intellectuals.
You're an idiot.
It's like a form of propaganda.
You're an idiot. Why would if that's true, why would they prop up somebody who is physically disabled as an intellectual, as a top intellect in the world?
Well, it's like the dream, because he's talking through a computer, so they could just control the computer and they can.
Why is that the dream? Why is that the dream?
Because
the dream is to take a guy with a disability that crippled him for life and use a computer to talk through him. That's the dream.
Think about you're a propagandist and you want
to give Christians the worst name. You're the reason. You're part of the reason that people do not want to accept Christianity or anything.
Think about if you were a propagandist and you could control. No, but look, I'm saying from the perspective of a propagandist, you're looking at the world. If you have control over a social media influencer with millions of followers, that's and you can get them to say whatever you want. I mean, that's your dream. You can control because people will follow the leader. And so if you control some top level scientist genius, then you can guide the intellectual community. Because they respect whatever Stephen Hawking says.
The point now is that the entire British government is corrupt, is what you're saying.
Well, that's obvious. Yeah.
How is the entire British government corrupt? What have they done to show they're corrupt, apart from propaganda that you're using for no reason?
You'd have to read.
And how does that show? How does that show that they're evil? How would they even use that? The technology for that hasn't even been invented. How would they control a man for his entire life and nobody know about it?
Well, the answer to a lot of the corruption and stuff is going to be in a book called "The Anglo-American Establishment" by Professor Carol Quigley.
Oh, and that's going to tell me how the English government's using Stephen Hawking as a prop for propaganda, is it?
Well, it'll give you the
nice one. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, it'll give you the foundation, and then there's also tragedy and hope.
How is that the foundation? How would it give me the foundation of the English government using Stephen Hawking for propaganda?
Whistle blows the whole conspiracy because Quigley was the historian on the Council on Foreign Relations, so he knows all the players and what they're doing.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
The book, the Anglo-American establishment that...
Yeah, you've already mentioned the book. You've already... Get past that. You've already mentioned the book.
It exposes, the conspiracy of the British government working with America to control the world. Yeah.
So how have you created? You say England working with America to control the world. That was
Anglo-American establishment.
That was hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
No, the book was like written in the 60s, I think, 70s.
What, that showed how England used America to control the world.
Yeah, America and the UK worked together to form the New World Order.
And right now, where Trump is trying to turn America make it completely independent, how does that work with England? If we worked with America, who's so rich and so powerful, how would we be so poor?
Because it's the plan is for austerity, so they're trying to destroy America too. They're making Americans poor right now. They're making inflation crazy, so they're going to bring America down to that of like a third world country, and then China is going to emerge as the new superpower, and they'll be like one world government and all this stuff. Well, there already is a one world government, but it's just not official.
Oh my God! You're saying there's a one world government?
Yeah, they'll say that they'll come up with global.
You're not the League of Nations. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, they'll come up with global problems like climate change or war or pandemics.
That's one world government. That's not what that's called.
They'll go, look at all these global problems. We need a global solution, and then we'll have a one world government.
Not called a one world government, right? And how have you managed to stretch this so far from your point of you not being able to identify logic in people? Because you clearly can identify logic in people just the same as you can do with almost any animal on the planet.
There's no like empirical
how?
Because logic isn't observable. It's immaterial.
Yes, it is.
No, it's immaterial.
If you give me a math problem and I can solve it, if you give me a math problem and I can solve it, that shows clearly that logic is observable.
Oh, what color is it?
What do you mean, what color is it?
What color is logic?
God. Well, it's conceivable. You can identify logic in a person just as you can identify logic in an animal.
Can you put logic in a cup?
You're saying logic just isn't a thing. You're saying logic isn't a thing.
You're just ignoring what I'm saying. It's immaterial. I'm saying I think it's real and it's immaterial.
Well, why does it have to be immaterial for it to be important? If you feel sad, does sadness just not exist? Does sadness just not exist anymore?
Yeah,
what color is sadness?
Yeah, if you feel like gravity isn't real, can you jump to the moon?
What do you mean? Okay, tell me what color is gravity then?
Well, gravity would be immaterial.
You're saying gravity is a material. What color is gravity?
Gravity is immaterial. It's a relation between objects. It's a. That's
not a material. That's not a material.
Yeah, it is. Relationships the relationship between you and your so-called father would be immaterial.
How would it be? Oh my God!
Relationships aren't.
So back to the point that you were clearly ducking. So you're saying people can't feel happiness, basically. You're saying people can't feel happiness.
Oh, they can feel happiness, but doesn't mean
happiness. What color is happiness?
It's not material.
If you see someone walking down the street and they're happy, can you go, "Oh, that person's happy"?
It's not like they can't feel it in sense of physical touch. They feel it in the sense of like an experience.
But it's still a thing, though, isn't it? It's still a thing.
It's an experience which is immaterial.
So if you saw a guy walking down the street and he was happy, you could say he's a happy person. Yes?
I can't see that he's happy. I wouldn't know that
You're
he's
just
happy.
ducking all of my points. You're just ducking all of my points by using random, like,
Dude,
you're
you didn't
ducking all my
answer.
points by
You
trying
didn't.
to, like, push it into loops.
Oh, you didn't answer any of my questions. You're a little bitch tits.
I've answered all your questions.
Okay, bitch tits.
I've answered all your questions,
Yeah,
and,
you did.
and what, you're just gonna... You're a Christian, by the way. You should have better manners than this.
Here's what we're gonna do.
Go on, then.
What's the relationship like with your father?
My dad actually just walked in. If you notice, my mic was muted 5 minutes ago. He actually just walked in and asked me how my food was. So that's great, isn't it?
Let me talk to him.
What do you mean? He's gone upstairs.
Well, he didn't raise you right. I gotta let him know.
What do you mean?
Let me talk to your father because I gotta tell him he did a
Just
poor
change your
job.
background because I've just told you you are a horrible Christian.
Look, I gotta.
You shouldn't be allowed to have a voice on any sort of platform, and
Let
you've
me
just
talk to
changed.
your-
You've just
let me
changed your
talk to your
background because I've
father.
just proved you wrong.
Let me talk to your father because he didn't raise you right.
Why would I let you talk to my dad?
He didn't raise you right. I gotta tell him. Like
How
he's
is he
gotta
not- how is he
fix.
not
He's
raising me?
gotta fix you, dude. He's gotta fix you.
How?
He's gotta check. Like you have no discipline.
You've just
Like
sat here and made no good points, and because I've made.
Oh my god. Like so if you're a father, you have to like discipline your children or they act like this in public. Yep. It's like a dog. Have you ever had a dog that's like out of control and it'll like run up and go crazy on other dogs? You have to check them. You have to be like, "Hey, you can't do that shit." Check them. These fathers aren't disciplining their children. Can you get to your dad or no?
Why would I get my dad?
Because
someone like you?
you're not mature for this conversation.
What do you mean? You, I'm guessing, are a grown man.
No, these atheists, you got to deal with them harshly. Like a good leader, you got to be. They're not going to respect you.
No,
You got to deal with them.
I'm not even here to debate you, but you
gotta be
just
firm with a young
objectively you went against what you believe in.
Are you an adult?
Yeah,
How old are you?
I'm 19.
What year were you born?
What? Why does that even matter? 2004.
Okay. So what would you like to say?
You just sinned. Like you weren't even listening to that guy when he was trying to debate you and you were cursing at him and shit. So why is you even trying to debate like Christianity when you can't even follow the rules of the Bible?
But what about his behavior?
He's not a Christian, is he? I'm not here for
He's
one.
not a Christian. I wouldn't expect him to act like a Christian, but when you're in a debate, you have to follow the rules of debate. And would you play Monopoly with someone that stole from the bank and you could never win because they cheated at Monopoly? Would you play the game with them?
What the no? But
Right. And then,
yeah,
so like when
I
we
mean
debate,
maybe.
you wouldn't. And so when you debate someone, debate's like a reason-giving game, and he's cheating at the game. And so I
He's
became
he's not cheating just because he has a
according
different
to
opinion
you.
though.
According
That's where
to
you're
you.
wrong.
Well, see, you are low information and you don't understand the rules of the game. So you don't understand, like, you can't referee the debate because you don't know what you're talking about. So you should probably, like, stay in your lane or you're going to make a fool out of yourself.
I don't really care. I don't want to debate you anyway. I just wanted to tell you that you sinned.
Okay, well.
So I'm gonna go now.
Okay,
Anyway,
well. All right. Well, when you're burning in hell, remember me. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, what's up? Do
What's
you
up?
think you're a good debater?
No.
What makes you think that? You just said that apparently that atheists are not good debaters, and you're
I
a
don't
better
think.
debater.
Well, it's not that atheists aren't good debaters; is that their worldview can't account for the preconditions that would be necessary for debate to be possible. So they can't debate based on their own. Like, to debate, we need objective morality and we need objective truth. Like, if I make an argument and there's no, like, ought, like, I can't say you ought to believe my argument, then my argument has no force. So objective morals are necessary
You
to
don't have evidence to support your argument. Is what makes your argument weak.
Okay, but what I'm making a point about the preconditions of an argument requires an objective morality. Without objective morality, your argument has no force. And if your argument has no force, you can't argue. And so
Yes, you're claiming your force is God, and you need to substantiate that your God exists, as compared to the other ones as well, who propose the same God, same
right, and
concept.
substantiated in his revelation in human history and creation.
Well, give more information than that. That's not informative.
Well, that's not my problem. That's your problem.
No, that kind of is your problem, because I could claim the same thing.
You're going to go to hell and I'm going to go to heaven. Sounds like you problem.
Well, that's very prideful of you. What makes you think you're going to heaven?
Because I love Jesus and I make Jesus first in my life. My whole life is about Jesus, while your whole life is about some stupid crap that's not Jesus.
So apparently you think Jesus is going to support a prideful person like you.
According to you, I mean, like, how would you even know what pride is? Because you have no standards.
Says who?
Well, what objective standard would you have for anything?
Are you actually objecting that you have pride?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty humble.
Since you think that you're going to heaven for the way you're behaving and the way you're treating people.
Well, I'm going to heaven because God saved me, and then I accepted him as my savior.
Right, and it doesn't involve anything like perhaps being a good person towards people. It doesn't mean that you automatically go to heaven because you worship Jesus and then you can be a complete dick your entire life.
No, we go to heaven because of the actions Jesus did on the cross, and then we work out our salvation. It's like a process that lasts until the end of our lives. And then I'm going to go to paradise with Christ because I love truth. I love unconditional love. And you're a hateful, arrogant, stubborn person that's going to hell.
And what's your standard for thinking that? What makes you think I'm hateful?
That's what the Bible says.
What makes you think I'm arrogant?
You have the Antichrist spirit.
Between us two, you have displayed a lot more arrogance.
Well, you won't submit to God. I did.
I don't need to submit to God. I don't need to submit to anything.
Exactly.
What makes you think that? And what makes you think I'm hateful?
Well, because you have the Antichrist spirit.
Says who? I don't hate anything. I can't hate an imaginary being, and I'm certainly not being hateful towards you.
Okay.
Yeah, if anyone's been hateful, it's you. You're so angry towards people.
I'm not angry.
Projecting your insecurities onto people.
Well,
if anyone needs therapy, it's you, mate.
What you just did is you just slandered me, and I consider that an act of hate.
It's not slander. It's genuine feedback. You ask for feedback. You ask for debate and discussion.
Yeah, but what standard are you appealing? I also asked for a fucking standard, Chris. What's your fucking standard to say anything of value?
There is no need to swear. You need to settle down, have a cup of tea.
There's no need to talk to you either. Bro, why do you keep requesting to come up? What's wrong with you?
Because you're it's so crazy how I don't know how a Christian can also be a narcissist at the same time.
Oh God, here we go.
No, let me just go through. So your whole life is me saying it's you saying anyone who's an atheist is completely wrong and they're going to go to hell for their entire life. One, you've clearly never read the entire Bible because you don't understand how any of that works. You know, in order to get to heaven, you have to do a little bit more than say I love Jesus. You know that, don't you? You should be smart enough to know that.
Well, I know that we're saved by God's grace, and what do you think grace is?
No, actually, our original sin was saved by Jesus, and you have to love other people and give other people the right to have their own opinions in order to be accepted into heaven.
Did you? I didn't hear an answer to my question. What does it mean to be saved by grace?
What does it mean to be saved by grace? Saved by grace is our original sin.
Do you want to? Okay, you could. Do you want to be humble here and admit you don't know what the fuck you're talking about?
What do you mean? It says in the Bible, the most notable quote that anyone knows from the Bible is "Love thy neighbor as thyself." You're saying, objectively, anyone who's an atheist, which is a very large amount of the population, is an awful human being who's going to go to hell, and they're completely arrogant, horrible, and you're being narcissistic about it because you think, because I love Jesus, I'm better than everyone else who doesn't love Jesus, and I'm going to go to heaven. That is completely wrong in the Bible itself. The Bible itself tells you you're wrong for saying things like that. So how does that make you right? How does that make you think you're better than me, even though you say the wrong things?
I'm not better at slander than you, for sure. But okay, how about well, you're better at slander than me, right? I asked, what does it mean to be saved by God's grace? You don't know. And so grace is an unmerited reward, which means we can do nothing to earn salvation. That's what it means to be grace. So no, I'm not saved because I go and be a good person and go be nice to people. That doesn't save me, sir. I'm purely saved by God's actions on the cross, and then I have to participate in that salvation.
One, it was Jesus' actions on the cross, not God's. But two, you do understand why people pray, don't you? You know, people pray
to have a relationship with God. Yeah,
to have a relationship, to repent for their sins. You know that's a thing, right?
No, they pray to have the purpose of.
I'm guessing you don't pray.
The purpose of prayer is to have a relationship with God.
And to ask for forgiveness. Yes. I'm guessing you don't pray.
The fuck?
I'm guessing you don't pray. And
dude,
your
let me talk to your father.
Let me speak. I was speaking first. Your narcissistic opinion is backed up by the fact that anyone who says something against you and is right against you and you can't handle it, you kick them from the live because you can't handle the fact that you're wrong in that situation. When people prove your points wrong, you can't handle that.
This is slander. What happens is I present arguments, and then my arguments get ignored, and then when you ignore my argument, then it's therapy time.
You never presented arguments. You said anyone who supports
right now. I'll do one right now.
That's not an argument.
I'll do one right now, okay? If knowledge...
Your arguments on the previous page. Your arguments were on the previous page.
Here's an argument. Here's an argument.
No, listen. I'm talking. You can at least let me finish. You can't present...
What a complete psychopath. Welcome.
Hello?
Welcome, Turbo.
Hey, what's up? I just want to say, oh, dude, the Stephen Hawking stuff and therapy stuff was hilarious.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No, I was laughing pretty hard at the Stephen Hawking stuff.
I hope people.
Hey, you can bring that guy back too, if he keeps requesting. I don't care. But yeah, no, I was listening to the like reasoning, basically argument and the kind of what you think. But I agree with you. But yeah, I think I feel like earlier you guys were talking about reasoning and logic. Do you think like those are two different things, or like with the animals?
Kind of. God, what is the difference? I think like reasoning is like the method and logic is like the tool. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're pretty similar. I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, I would agree that animals have reasoning, but I wouldn't say like logic.
I think of them as like a biological robot. I think they just like input output data. I don't think they like understand meaning. I guess that's how I view it. But like we ultimately don't know because I'm not a cat, so I don't know what it's like to be a cat. I only know what it's like to be a human.
Yeah, well, I'd say that because I've seen a lot of atheists arguing with like for animals, because they argue okay, well, if this animal went through suffering or this and that, but yeah, I guess I don't see it's like, well, does an animal have a soul? Like, what do you hold an animal to, like in a standard? Like you don't hold them higher than, humans.
Right, because if you like an atheist had a situation where it's like, do you save the human or do you save the dog? Well, common sense says save the human, but technically they have no reason to say like a human life has more value than a dog life. They just prefer it. So I think that's kind of an issue because I want to be a realist and I want like to be consistent, my beliefs to be consistent with my actions. And so if I think humans have more value, I want that to be real. I don't want that to just be like a fantasy. Yet they accuse us of like having a fantasy sky daddy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and then earlier you were talking about how a Christian is granted logic, but an atheist is not, right?
Well, we can explain it. Basically, it makes sense in Christianity where it doesn't make sense in atheism.
Yeah. So then I guess with the animal aspect, like another question would be, okay, does God grant us with reason? Does an atheist, is he granted reason? Like, and a Christian?
Well, yeah, we would say the atheists could reason because they're made in the image of God. And because like God can reason correctly about the world and we're made in his image. We can sort of reason like God, but it's not exactly like God. We're like an inferior. Our logic is like an inferior version of like God's logic, I guess, and it's a reflection of God's logic.
But I'd like to hear you explain it more. But yeah, how do you think a person or like a Christian has the access to logic just from God's gift?
Think about this, like in the atheist model, you would say like what your brain was just evolved. So they would say, well, we evolve to like reason correctly, but that doesn't follow because you could have evolved to reason incorrectly. There's nothing in evolution. But what we're saying is like God designs our mind. That's the big difference. So if your mind is designed by God and then God designs the world that you live in, it makes sense that your mind like accurately reflects the world. But if you just like evolved randomly, accidentally, there's nothing in like evolution or science that would suggest that like our reasoning is valid because it evolved to be valid or something. It doesn't follow. So there'd be no reason if we're the result of an accident. Like reasoning can't be accidental. Reasoning has to have like a foundation of like a justification.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because there would be no reason and logic by an accident.
Yeah, so like if you ask me how old am I, and I guess, and let's say I'm correct. Well, that wouldn't be like I didn't reason my way to a correct answer. I just got lucky. It was an accident. So we wouldn't say like you can't reason accidentally. So if you're ultimately your mind is the result of an accident, then all your reasoning is in a sense accidental. Where our reasoning is the result of like order and design. So it makes sense that our reasoning is accurate. Whereas like the atheist just kind of has to accept, well, I just assume it's accurate. It's a blind faith, So
yeah,
I think that's a problem, but they're just going to go, well, I don't care.
Well, but then, I mean, with the I don't care, you can they can go into arguments by just saying that, right? Or they can start to reason and argue with you.
But when they start to use logic, but the problem is when they start to use logic, we can go, well, hey, you're using logic, so you have to justify your use of logic. I can justify my use of logic on the Christian model. You can't. So when the atheist shows up to debate, they kind of lose. They're admitting that they're in the Christian world where that we can make arguments.
Yeah. So, but a Muslim can pass that, but then they'd have to defend it off the Quran, correct?
Muslim, yeah. So if a Muslim, we get into like a theological debate where we'd probably go to like the scripture and we could show things in the Quran. Like the Bible says God's always truth revealing, and the Quran says that all is the great deceiver.
And so that would be like a reason to go with the Bible over the Quran. We'd use reasons like theological reasons as opposed to like when we debate, obviously, with a non-believer, they don't have any theology to compare. So
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, man. I'm gonna take off. Thanks for talking to me.
all right, yeah, thanks for the compliments. I appreciate that. That's like the best compliment you can give me. Is to say that so if I hurt anyone's feelings, I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I really just want to make people laugh and entertain them and also educate them on Christianity. That's all I want to do. So if people's feelings get hurt, I mean, it's not intentional. Anyways, welcome, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
This is just ridiculous. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I haven't been listening for that long, so sorry if I bring up anything that's been said already. So I just wanted to check, and also like I should probably say from the beginning, I believe in God, but I don't believe in Christianity, precisely for the reason that I don't think it's been objectively proven. I don't think there's enough proof to show the divinity of Christ. So I'm curious why you think it's objectively proven.
Well, because I think there's like a philosophical proof, which is a transcendental argument for God, and it's going to say that like God's not like a normal fact. Proving God's not like proving the shape of the earth or something, because God makes facts true. In our view, in my view, God is the source of truth. So, since God is a standard for truth, we have to prove him how we would prove a standard for truth, and we would have to like compare the Christian system that we use to determine what's true and to any other non-Christian system that they use to determine what's true, and we would show that only the Christian system is coherent. So to deny Christianity is to like deny science, deny logic, reason, truth, etc.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not disputing the existence of God, just the proof of Jesus's divinity.
I mean, the Bible says that's what he claims he's God in the Bible.
Okay, but you can't use an appeal to religion as proof. You can't sort of say, it's true because it's in the Bible without kind of showing that what's in the Bible is true.
Yeah, but what did Jesus claimed he was the truth, right?
He claimed it.
I am the truth and I am the way. That's what Jesus said. So if Jesus is the truth, then to deny Jesus what he says, then what would be the truth? That's not Jesus.
Okay, but why believe that statement?
Because if you deny Jesus is the truth, then you won't know what the truth is. And if you don't know what the truth is, that's a contradiction. So it'd be a contradiction to deny that Jesus is the truth.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, typically when you talk about proof, it's said one place. It's also usually corroborated elsewhere. Where, if we assume that, the Bible can't stand alone as an authority, what sources of evidence are there that back up what's in the Bible?
Yeah, see, you keep asking me for proof of like the Bible's true, and I keep telling you that it's like you're asking me to use your standard to prove like my God. And I'm saying that the proof is that your standard doesn't work, that the only way we can prove things is if we use a Christian standard.
Isn't that pretty convenient?
Is it? Well, give me a coherent system that can... What's truth if it's not the Christian God, How do you make sense of truth?
Well, how do you make sense of truth? Well, typically, you pull evidence from multiple sources that point to the most likely outcome.
Yeah, but you need a system to do that. So what would be the system that's not in the Christian system, like God would...
What do you mean by system here? Sorry.
Okay, so in Christianity, God is going to dictate like what is, what can, what cannot be. He determines all states of affairs as to what they are. So God makes facts true. What would make a fact true that's not God? So that you could have a fact.
Okay, so are you essentially saying that without God's endorsement, something can't be confirmed as true?
God and I'm saying you and me have two different models of reality. So we're not arguing about evidence. We're arguing about models of reality. And I'm saying in my model of reality, God makes a fact true. In your model of reality, what would make a fact true? That's not God. And I would say you don't have anything, and so your model doesn't work.
Okay, so I guess, you're saying that your model of, and also, by the way, I'm not kind of arguing with you. I'm just trying to understand your way of thinking. So you're kind of saying, this is my method for, determining if something is true or not. Why should we trust in that method? Why should we trust in that system? Because, typically in every other aspect of life, you need something to evidence an outcome as being accurate. In general, in life, if somebody told you something, you would want, and irrespective of how crazy the claim is, you wouldn't just blindly believe it, would you? You would want kind of evidence from multiple places pointing towards it.
Okay, but when we look at the school of so in philosophy, the study of knowledge is called epistemology. So that's the evidence. The study of evidence is called epistemology.
Okay.
And there's two schools of thought. There's rationalism, which is going to say that all knowledge is derived from reason and logic. And then there's empiricism, which is going to say all knowledge comes from our sense data and our experiences. And there's also various attempts to create hybrids of those two systems.
Yeah.
None of them work. They all fail. It's impossible to have any proof. There is no evidence unless we accept God's revelation as a foundation for which we could have rational and empirical proof.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying, there's two schools of thought. Why is empirically proving something less valuable? Why is that method not?
Okay, because empiricism says that all truth is derived ultimately from sense data. Okay, but that proposition, that sentence is not in sense data. So empiricism is self-defeating at its ultimate commitment. It immediately defeats itself. So empiricism can't prove empiricism.
That doesn't, do you think it seeks to prove itself?
Well, if your system can't prove itself, then that's called a failure. That's an epic fail.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's kind of like a methodology.
Alex, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Of course, necessarily.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you can prove empirical methodology simply by applying it.
Can you prove empiricism is true with empiricism?
Well, I guess you could on an individual level, like case by case. You can say,
Alex, no, it's self-defeating. You don't know what the fuck you are saying or thinking. You don't know what you're talking about.
So I don't think you need to get so angry. We're just kind of having a discussion here.
Well, why are you sitting here telling me I'm wrong when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about?
I actually haven't said you're wrong at all. I'm actually just trying to...
Fuck you. What an asshole.
Hey,
Welcome, Will.
how you doing?
Doing well. How are you? I'm doing
Not
well.
bad.
I'm doing
Yeah,
well.
good one. I'm a Christian.
Right.
A lot of your points I agree on. I don't say I don't agree on point 5. I just want to know what you mean.
So for science to be possible, it requires a certain type of world to be the case. So the world where God creates the universe and endows the universe with order, science is possible. But if God doesn't endow the universe with order, you wouldn't be able to explain how there's like this consistency in nature that we can repeat experiments and get the same results.
Okay, that actually makes loads of sense.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that. They take a lot of stuff for granted, as if it's
they do.
yeah.
That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, thank you.
bless.
God bless, man. Excuse my sailor talk. I'm trying to make people laugh as well as educate. So, welcome, Elaine, Alan. I can't tell. What would you like to say?
How's it going?
It's going well.
Good. Good. I think I kind of in general agree with these topics. I think you strategically put these up here because there's no absolution in these.
I disagree.
And I think you know that. I think you know that, but I think that there is truth that allows the conversation to exist. Christianity is objectively proven. Obviously, Christianity is this very ambiguous term in 2025. So, I would say, what do you mean by each of these points? And we can start the conversation there if you're cool with that.
I mean, I don't think Christianity is ambiguous. Sure, there's like lots of what's the word? God, denominations. There's lots of denominations, but I don't see why it's like pretty clear that we believe, Jesus is God, he incarnated in a man, died for our sins, etc. I'm saying the Bible is objectively proven. Everything in the Bible is true. Every claim.
Okay, so let's start there. And again, like I believe that we probably would agree on like core beliefs and concepts of theology. But let's talk about this. The point that you have, Christianity is objectively proven. First of all, I want to ask you why books that are mentioned in the New Testament aren't included in the Old Testament.
What?
So the book of Jasher is an example. Why is it missing from the Bible, but it's referenced by multiple characters in the Bible?
Because it didn't get included in Scripture. So what?
But why didn't it though? That's the question I have.
You'd have to ask a Bible scholar. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. So the reason I'm saying that is we, myself included, point to the Bible as being this foundational text for Christianity, and I think we should do that. The thing that I'm not hearing you acknowledge is that there's canon and non-canonical text, okay? And I think so many Christians want to say, you're saying Christianity is objectively proven, but there's texts that are mentioned in the Bible, like, I don't know, Book of Jasher, Book of Enoch, a host of other texts, okay? Going back from the early scribes, like Book of Ezra, when he's sitting there writing down these things, he wrote things that aren't in the Old Testament that I think should be there, or at a minimum be an addendum, okay? But all I'm doing is highlighting that when we say Christianity is objectively proven, there's part of the story that most Christians never even see or hear about. So does that make sense why I'm saying it that way? Is that fair to say it that way?
It sounds like you're being petty.
No, I'm not. But when we use terms like Christianity is objectively proven, and I'm asking you, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
The Bible is not conclusive in the way that it's framed in the Western world. So this idea,
according to you, I disagree.
Well, hang on a second though. How many books did Jesus say that existed in his word?
I don't know.
I agree. I don't either, because he never said that. He never said this book that's going to come out in 1066, etc., or whatever, the Wycliffe translation or the Septuagint. He never said these people with different translations and different number of books that they're going to have their own unique truth based on the word. He just said that.
But God gives us the freedom and the responsibility to bear witness to his word, and that was what we did. So we have the word.
No, I'm with you. I guess what I'm saying is I don't disagree with that. The person that lived in Easter Island as an example in the year 300 AD, okay, what text or Bible did they have an option to believe in?
Well, they didn't have a Bible, but they had God would have been obvious to them because of his invisible qualities.
Understood. So they would have had the natural order that they could observe around them with their 5+ senses, and they could have objectively, Christianity being objectively true, they could objectively look at something that's not labeled as Christianity and say there's a creator in that experience. Is that a fair representation, or would you like to clarify what you mean?
Well, the revelation that they would see in the world would be Christianity.
Okay, so and that's my question. In 300 AD or 200 AD or 500 BCE, pick a year, pick a place. The person who has never heard of Christianity, Jesus, Isis, Yeshua, never heard of any Old Testament scripture, the person who lived and died and never heard any of that, how is Christianity objectively proven to that person?
It wouldn't be. Well, it would be obvious. It would be. I mean, like, it wouldn't be like no one walked up to them and gave them an argument, but it would be proven to them in like the invisible qualities of God, right?
Okay, so can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so God is unconditional love. Unconditional love exists. So that like is an invisible quality that we experience that would reveal God. So they would know God through unconditional love or justice or absolute moral claims or truth claims. All these things would reveal God because he's necessary for all these things.
Okay, so and the reason I'm asking is I want to make sure I'm saying the Aborigines in Australia, okay, when the natural disaster hit and hundreds of thousands of them died, I'm not trying. This isn't a gotcha or anything. I'm trying to understand when you say Christianity is objectively proven. Are you saying that every human that's ever existed, that they had the ability to perceive that Christianity is objectively proven, or no?
Yes.
Okay. I don't understand, though, when you say that they're going to see. How could somebody see Jesus, Christianity, right? Jesus Christ or Isis or whatever you want to say. I'm guessing with Christianity, we're talking about New Testament, Jesus Christ, etc. 12 disciples, his message. He says, go into the whole world and be witnesses, right? Tells us 12 disciples that. Okay. The people who didn't hear that message, who have never heard that message, even today, okay, somebody living today that's never heard that message, how is Christianity objectively proven to them, or is Christianity objectively proven without people hearing the message?
Because it's like this invisible force that exists everywhere in every object. So whenever you look at anything, you're seeing God's revelation.
Okay. I think that's fair. I'm willing to accept that. Atheism is irrational. I think I agree with that at face value. The reason I say that is I think a lot of times people want to say like the order and chaos argument and say, oh, if there's order, there must be a creator. And I think that's fair. I think the reality is that so many atheists will say that we don't know. And the reality is that everybody should be saying that. The reality is that the Bible even points
What's your
to
argument for that?
Yeah, the Bible talks about the mystery of God. There's countless verses that point to that. Even believers in the New Testament, Jesus said he's going to talk in parables to the masses and in mysteries to his disciples. There's nobody that can concretely.
That doesn't mean we can't know God. That doesn't follow.
But that's not what I said though. So let's backtrack a little bit here. Atheists make absolute claims that there is no God. Okay, but it's the same logic that defeats that argument is something that should be joining atheist and Christianity. Christians will say, and I say this: there's a creator, entity, being, something beyond me that created me, and I try to understand that thing through this ancient text and through the story of Jesus, and it has some valuable sense to me. Okay, but at the core root of that is this understanding that I did not create myself, and so I think that the problem is that is the common ground that atheists and Christians and just humans in general, none of us chose to be born. No one chooses to be born. We just exist, and then we have to come to terms with what that means. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm saying atheism is irrational. Well, none of us chose to be born. We didn't create ourselves, so we have to start from that common ground.
Is this supposed to be an argument that atheism is rational or something?
No, I'm agreeing with you, and I'm elaborating my perspective on atheism being irrational and why, and that I believe that there's common ground there. We can just leave it at an agreement. I wasn't arguing with you. Okay. No slavery in ancient Israel. Can you define what you mean by slavery in number 3?
Like forced, involuntary, oppressive labor.
Forced, voluntary, or oppressive labor.
Involuntary, forced, oppressive labor.
Okay. I think that's arguable. And I want to make sure I'm understanding the context as well. There's a little bit more to this, I think. Are you saying you don't think that anybody had slaves at all in biblical text?
Yeah, I'm saying that no one was forced to do anything against their will, unless you like commit a crime or something. Like in our society, if you commit a crime, you lose your freedom because we can't have like rapists running around in society hurting people.
Well, I understand that. We're talking about that would be like a crime and a societal opt-in thing where somebody participates in a society and there's like a list of crimes you don't do.
Yeah, so they didn't have prisons back then. So what they had was like a socioeconomic institution.
But that's not true. Joseph was in prison, right?
It is true. They didn't have a prison system in the ancient Near East like we have today.
Okay, so my apologies. Then was Joseph imprisoned or not?
Do we have a prison system in the ancient Near East or not?
I'm asking. Well, you said that we don't, and I am asking you if Joseph was.
You're just. I can't stand you. You're being pedantic and obnoxious. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
What would you like to say?
I was just listening to your conversation. It's kind of funny that he keeps saying atheists make claims. There's no claim, you know. We just don't believe you.
Uh-huh.
You guys are making claims if you're stating there's a God and you know where creation began and you have an understanding of how the universe was created. Those are claims.
Mm-hmm.
An atheist simply says, we don't believe that. You don't have any evidence of that.
Well, everyone has like a system they use to determine what's true or false. So that would be a claim, right?
Not believing a statement is not a system of true and false. You're making a claim that there's a God. An atheist is simply saying, do you have proof of that? And you don't, and so therefore we don't believe you. I'll give you a great example. I'm assuming you're a Christian.
Yes.
The first commandment says there are many gods, and you don't believe in those gods. So you're an atheist. You understand where I'm coming from. Are you making a claim by not believing in those gods, or do you just not believe in those gods because you don't feel there's enough evidence to justify your belief?
I understand you've been like manipulated by atheist influencers that spread like lies on the internet.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what's going on here? You're not understanding the situation. So, as a theism is a claim of a creator-creature distinction. Okay, that would be a metaphysical claim. Okay, so do you understand? Everyone operates out of like a model of reality.
Perspective, yeah.
So when you don't accept the creator-creature distinction, that means you have an ontology without a creator-creature distinction, which would be a claim that you would need to defend as an atheist.
Well, you're assuming that I believe that. I don't believe that. I think it's possible we were created. I think it's possible that, evolution played a part. But there's a lot of unanswered questions. And to pretend that you know the answers because you claim to know a God there's no evidence of.
I'm not talking about what you believe. I'm talking about what you do. Do you accept the creator-creature distinction?
No.
Okay. Now that's
no
a
evidence of
claim.
it.
That's a metaphysical claim. There you go.
No, I'm not making a claim. You're making a claim that there's a creator and we are a creation. I'm just stating that there's no evidence of that, so I don't believe it. That's not a belief. A belief is something that you don't know. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to believe it. I know there's no facts backing what you believe up, so I choose not to believe it.
Okay, so are you making a claim that you're not making a claim?
Listen, you can use semantics. The burden of proof is on the person making a claim. And let me ask you this. Let's say that someone on here was, I don't know, what's another religion? Buddhist, or Buddhism's not even a religion. Let me think. Islamic. And they believe that God has told them to sacrifice themselves to eliminate infidels. And you say, well, your God did not tell you that. So how would we determine which one of you is right?
That's a good question.
There's no way to determine it because you both have a belief. You don't have knowledge. You can't believe what you know. So you don't know, and neither does he. So it would be a never-ending circle of just manipulation and attempts at making your belief right. But neither of you would have enough evidence to justify. So there's tons of religious people just like you that make claims that there's no evidence of.
So what was your
And
relationship?
let's say that I'm not a racist. Would I be a non-racist? No, I'm just not a racist. That's not a claim that I'm making. I just don't believe that that's what I want to be. And same thing with what you're saying.
Are you
I'm
claiming,
not
are you
making
claiming you're not making a claim?
I'm claiming the claim you're making has no evidence. How's that?
What was your relationship like with your father?
What does that have to do with whether there's a God?
Well, I think you are ignoring the clear evidence of God because you maybe didn't get enough attention from your father growing up. Did he work a lot?
How would that benefit you in proving that there's a God and that the God you picked is the right one?
Well, because if you have daddy issues, I can present 1,000 evidences, but you'll just ignore the evidence because of your daddy issues. So I think we have to address your daddy issues, and then we can talk about evidence.
Daddy issues? Man, you are some kind of disrespectful Christian, huh? No, I don't have any daddy issues, but I do have an issue with believing claims without any factual representation to back them up. I don't base anything else in my life on that, and I'm sure you don't either. Is there anything else in your life that you believe and you can't question? Because if you question religion, then you have daddy issues or something's wrong, right?
Well, because you're also let me explain myself. Just relax.
So I've asked everything else in life, but not religion or your belief.
I've asked you several questions, and you've rudely not answered any of my questions. So unless it's daddy issues, like what the fuck is wrong with you that you can't answer my fucking question, you piece of garbage?
What's your question? I had a great relationship with
Are
my
you
dad.
claiming that you're not making a claim?
Am I claiming that I'm not making a claim? Yeah, sure. I don't believe you. That's not a claim.
Do you have any evidence that you're not making a claim?
That's my disbelief in your claim is not a claim.
Okay. So this is So you gotta grow up, and then maybe we can have a conversation.
Grow up. I actually went to theological school for 2 years and have a degree in religion. So when you say that I don't have knowledge or understand things, I probably know the Bible more than you.
Are you a Christian?
No.
When are you gonna stop being a pussy and become a Christian?
You mean?
No, bro. You have to leave him, man. I like to catch him, man. Can you bring him up, please?
I gotta go.
Bring him up.